Hey, how's it going, everyone? Welcome to Mentor Monday. Mentor Monday is your weekly microdose of encouragement, inspiration, and miracle grow on your potential as a coach. As we always like to do, I'm very excited about the new series that we're starting tonight, but we've got to start with first things first, which is connecting with you. So do us a huge favor. See right here at the bottom here, people who usually come on Monday nights know what we do. I'm not interested in just being a talking head over here, though I am in a studio in California. I want to be able to connect with you. So do us a huge favor. Jump inside of the chat, whether you're on YouTube or Facebook, and tell us where you're joining us from. Tell us what you're excited about, what you feel momentum on in your life. So again, your name should pop up there, but tell us where you are joining us from. And also, if you've got any questions or you've got comments or thoughts, we'd love for you to populate that chat widget all, the entire time. Also, do us a huge favor, like and share this post, because commenting, liking, sharing, you watching, all of those things tell YouTube and Facebook that we're doing a good job. That's all we're hoping to get from you out of that. Let me say hello to a few people. There's Santos. It's been a little while, Santos. It's good to see you from Stockton, California. Kimberly is joining us from Chicago. And we have Vividly from Tucson, Arizona. Diane is joining us from South Carolina. Sandy is joining us from New Jersey. Glad to be back on board. So good. If you're just making it into the room, you haven't missed anything yet, just let us know that you're here. Jump inside of the chat widget and say hello to us. Tell us where you're joining us from and maybe what you're excited about today. Again, new series tonight, and I'm pretty stoked because this is going to be the first of, I think we're going to run this series for an entire month, and we'll get to the end of it, and it'll be amazing and hopefully life-changing for you, as well as life-changing for your clients, as well as you learn some more things. Rain is joining us from Florida. Welcome. Anybody else like to say hello to us as we are beginning? And again, what we always do is we want to interact with you. So jump into the comments. Let us know that you're here. It's the only way that we know that you're here is if you comment. Also, like and share this. So if you're on Facebook or on YouTube, just take 1 second, just tap that thing. I promise you, we won't follow you or stalk you or any of those other things. I just want Facebook and YouTube to know that we're trying our best to give you guys content and helping you. And so that just tells them that we're doing a good job. I'd really appreciate that. Cool. All right. We'll leave that up for a second if anybody wants to let us know that that we're here. Where are we starting this week? We're talking about living in an aligned life. Now, I know that in some cases, alignment has been, depending on where you're at, you might have heard it as a buzzword over the last few years, something like that. And people have different ideas about what that means. And some people have kind of mystical ideas about what that means. And some have more practical ideas of what that means. And let me say this is that I do believe that we have a calling and a purpose on our life that's bigger than us. But at the exact same time, I think that there are real practical things and practical tools and practical ways that we can actually discover what these things are. Because it's what I want to do tonight is I want to show you the ways that you can actually grow into an awareness if you are living a life that's not really in alignment. There's some real warning signs, some critical things that maybe you haven't paid a whole lot of attention to. And I like to think of that as being kind of like the check engine light on your car. Let me say hello to a couple more people. There's Linda, who's saying hello to us from, oh, there it goes. Linda's joining us from Illinois. So it's good to see you, Linda. Anybody else want to say hello? Betty's joining us from Florida. Good to see our Florida people in the house. Keep those comments going because I will come back to them in just a little bit. But going back to this thought, what does alignment mean? Really, what alignment means is, well, you're aligned in what, though? You're aligned in agreement in various areas of your life. And when you're aligned in various agreements, in agreement with various areas of your life, then you get to the destination that you want to get to. And there are warning signs along the way that tell you that you are not aligned, and it also will prevent you from getting to where you want to go in your life. I mean, let's think about alignment in general. Where do we hear that word commonly? Well, we hear it in, if any of you have ever had a car that was out of alignment, well, it was pretty easy to tell that it was out of alignment. There's a few different reasons. Depending on what degree of alignment that it was out of, you could, I remember when I was in high school, I had to get a ride to school because I didn't drive and I didn't get a car until after I was out of high school. And my friend, who we both lived really far away from school, he ended up moving in closer to school, so I couldn't get a ride anymore. So there was this lady who worked in the area that I would get a ride from every morning. And the two worst things that I remember about this drive every day is that she would smoke a ton of cigarettes, and she would think she was giving me a break, but she would just barely crack the window, and her smoke would kind of go up there, but I'm showing up to school smelling like smoke. But the other problem was she drove this little Dodge Shadow, and I don't know if you guys remember those. Those cars were popular for a couple of years there. Little car, but it was out of alignment, and it was so bad that it would be shaking the entire time. And so I'm watching her be all intense, and she literally had the steering wheel turned at about a 25-degree angle the entire time, trying to keep it on the road. Meanwhile, this looks very intense. I wondered if part of her reason for smoking so many cigarettes every day was because she's trying to hold on to the wheel, and it was giving her a lot of anxiety. But even there, for me, sitting there was kind of like, boy, this is a bit stressful. Is it that expensive just to go in and let them just kind of figure out where these wheels are and where they need to turn? See, the reality is that when you go into a car repair place, they will look at how far out of alignment something is, and they'll make, in these days they've got it by computer, so they can literally look in, and to the degree they can move all of the parts that need to move, because what needs to happen? Well, there's a lot of things that need to happen in there to keep it on the road, but the reality is that you're going to wear out your tires after a while if you're not in alignment. Even if you are holding the steering wheel at a 25-degree angle and it's keeping you on the road, you're wearing your tires, and you can only do that for so long before you don't have any tires anymore. You obviously can't cruise, and you can't be at rest, which is a really good sign in life. If you don't have alignment, is that you can never be at rest, because you've got to stay focused trying to hold on to things all the time. So it's another really good sign that something's up, because if you fall asleep at the wheel, then or you're just not paying attention for a short period of time, that you're going to veer off. And it doesn't always mean that people's lives are going to end in destruction. I would say at the very least that it's not going to get them to their destination like they were really hoping. So here's what the warning signs, and again, what we'll do over the next few weeks is we'll pick apart some of this metaphor so that you can see how it actually applies, so that you can address these particular areas in your life. But I want to give you 5 signs that really show 5 signs that your life is actually out of alignment. And say hello to a couple more people. Jennifer, who's joining us from Arizona. Let me say hello really quick. And Miles, who's joining us from San Diego. All right, cool. All right, let's jump in. First sign: negative thoughts and emotions are actually driving you in your life. That's going to be your first sign. Now, a lot of people don't really think, well, I don't always have negative thoughts and negative emotions. But if this is what's operating in your life to any degree, and really what you can do is that you can usually look at your emotional state during the week. So what is your mental state and what is your emotional state? And what if I was to write a lot of these down? I'll give you an example of what some of those things would be. The easy way to know if your emotional state or if your negative thoughts or your emotions are dictating your life and are running your life instead of you, all I've got to do is give you basically, what I do? I'd give you a little thing, you throw it in your calendar, and about every 30 minutes that you would check in with your emotional state. I used to do this with clients all the time. And so what you can find is Like if I start my day, it's 7 a.m. and now let's say at 7:30, let's say at 8, let's say at 8:30. What I would want you to do, and you guys can do this to yourself, 8:30, and then you go 9, and then 9:30, and then 10:30. I'd like you to do this for a week. And then we get to 11:30 and noon. I'm just going to show you just through noon, okay? So if I get you to check in, your alarm goes off, and we just ask, what is your emotional state right now? That's the question that you're going to ask right now. Or I could also say, what emotion is the prevailing feeling that you are experiencing? Because your feelings, your emotional state is going to tell me everything that I need to know about where your mind has been and how you're actually viewing the world. So if you wake up in the morning and you're like, oh, I got to get up and I've got to get ready for work or whatever, and you're feeling numb or you're feeling a little bit of dread, well, I know that we've got anxiety that's ruling there. 7:30, oh, I'm trying to rush around and get something to eat, and now we're still dealing with anxiety here. And then we finally get to work, and you notice that when you get to work, that there's a little bit of dread and fear. And then we get into work, and it's dread and fear, because you know why? Because you're going to be doing something that is purposeless at work. So now we know what your emotional state is there. And then we get to 8:30, and you know what you're doing is that you're at work, but you're thinking how the job is insignificant. So now we've got that feeling and that emotional state. So what we can find is we could track this, and if we go through your day and there are a lot of peaks of anxiety, if there is boredom, if there's frustration, if there's anger, if there is guilt that you're feeling about things, we can just go down the list here. That's all I really need to know about what's actually driving you in your life. Because if you're aligned, we know that we're not having those experiences during our day. Doesn't mean that you can't ever have anxiety. It doesn't mean that you can't feel apprehensive every now and then. It can't mean that you're never frustrated or whatever. I'm not saying that it can't mean, but those are momentary things. What emotional states are you living in? Oh, and let me say this then. Because what's the opposite of these things? That's what we would have to look at. Like if I'm going to get you to do that this week, then I would say compare that to how often you feel joy, you feel excited, you feel alive, you feel fully manifested, you feel in control, you feel at peace, you feel good, you feel in flow, you feel like you're thriving, you feel ambitious, you feel like you are looking forward to the future. See, this is the normal states of alignment right here. So you've got to, if I'm going to figure out where you're living and what's driving you, then all we've got to do is that we've just got to compare. How much of your day every day currently are you spending in flow, excited, looking forward, knowing that there's potential, feeling accomplished, feeling like something's actually happening in your life that's moving you forward? How much of that? And you could probably think about that without even going through your day tomorrow. but I want you to do this throughout your day. Set 30-minute increments and check in with your emotional state and what you're thinking about. Also, the thoughts that you're thinking about yourself and about your future and about your surroundings and about your family and about your relationships and all of those other things. If you're experiencing high level of dissatisfaction in your life when you check in throughout your day, then it's also telling you all that you need to know about the fact that you are unaligned right now with regard to your life. Now, that means that you are not driving your car, something else is driving your car. And I can tell you this, that guilt is not going to get you to where you want to go. Why would we be experiencing guilt? Well, we'll get to that later. It's going to take us a couple of weeks to finally really dial that one in. But I'll give you a heads up on this. Guilt is really remorse, and when we experience it, experience remorse, it's usually to get us to stop doing something that we are currently doing that is wrong. That's the design of it. But a lot of times people feel guilt because they're not doing the right thing, that we're not showing up in life like we know that we are supposed to be living into life. Like, I'm not showing up for my family like I should be showing up. I'm not showing up as an employee like I should be showing up. I'm not showing up in my own potential, my own life's purpose. And therefore, since I am living below the standard, see, there's nothing worse than knowing that you have extraordinary potential, that you are gifted, that you are a passionate person about certain things, but you're fake working 6 out of 8 hours of the day, that you're just kind of going through the motions. See, that produces guilt because none of you are wired to be just going through the motions every day. You aren't wired just to coast and that the things that you do don't really matter and have a greater purpose. So what happens is that in your heart, you feel guilt because you're working for an employer who probably doesn't, validate your existence and affirm what it is that you bring to the table. You're probably doing skills that are below your skill level, or they're not connected with your purpose, but you're doing it for the paycheck. And that makes you feel guilty because inside you, you're wired for more than that. When you know that you are wired, and intrinsically, every one of you know, there's nothing wrong with working for people, and there's nothing wrong with working certain jobs, as long as it's connected to something greater that you're not feeling guilt and you're not conflicted with yourself. This is conflict. When you're feeling guilt in your life every day, there's a conflict going on that something is not being addressed and something's not being resolved. So if you're experiencing this, then we know that we are out of alignment. It may mean that you need a career change. It may mean that you need a purpose change. It may mean that you need to be showing up in your life differently. It may mean that you need to start showing up with your family differently. But guilt can be traced to something. So guilt usually is designed to shut us down, but a lot of times people try to use guilt to motivate themselves, and guilt's a terrible motivator. It's actually a demotivator. And that's why we need to get back onto the things that really matter and get realigned, and then you'll watch guilt just drop off in a heartbeat. A couple of other feelings that drive people who are out of alignment. Sadness is another one. That is connected to something. Why do we generally feel sad? I'm not talking about clinical depression, and I'm not talking about, chemical imbalances or whatever. I'm talking about the fact that if you're experiencing sadness, if that's an emotional state that you feel yourself in a lot, it's connected to something where you know that in your heart there's something more, but we're living below it. Third thing, and obviously these are not exhaustive, but anxiety. If you have anxiety in large parts of your life, you're feeling stress, you're feeling apprehension, then something's off, and we need to bring ourselves back into alignment. Let me say hello to just a couple of people really quick. There's Sam from Oceanside. How's it going, Sam? I was down there just the other day. Tara's joining us from Vegas. And we've got Becoming a Better You from DFW. Very cool. Awesome. All right, let me speed this up. Number 2, second sign that your life is out of alignment is that you lack a sense of purpose, meaning, or fulfillment. And let me give you some indicators of what that is exactly. If you are experiencing feeling numb, that is not okay. If there is a numbness in you, let's think about it in your own body. if I remember years ago when I was in college and I was hanging out with these guys really late, and we're by the pool, and there was some guy who'd gotten invited, and you get bored after a while and everything else, and you're just sitting around just like doing stupid guy things when you're in college or whatever. We're sitting there talking, and this guy was talking. They were talking about how gross his foot was. And I'd never seen the guy's feet because he was a new guy to the group or whatever, but people knew him and they're like, oh, his feet are gross or whatever. And he has elephantitis. And basically your foot gets all like deformed. It looks deformed, but worse is that your foot loses all sensitivity. And I watched that guy put his foot over an open flame and he couldn't feel the thing. Now, here's the problem with that. It's not that, oh, well, he wasn't feeling pain, everything's okay. No, actually what can happen is that you're not feeling pain, but something can be, but pain signals are supposed to tell you something. If you're feeling pain, it's actually a good sign of life. It's actually a good sign that you're still connected in your heart to something, and that your body's still connected, because pain has a purpose. Pain tells you something's not right. Move your hand away from the flame, whatever it is. It's there to keep you safe and to keep you healthy. And when you can't feel it, what would happen to people when they have these different conditions or nerve conditions in their feet or whatever, they're not feeling the normal pain that other people would feel. And what ends up happening is that they end up having to get amputated or something like that, because it can go to rot and it can actually die on the limb. This is what is happening to a lot of people. And I believe that post 2020, this is what we're seeing a lot of with people in general, is that they've come into this sense of numbness. If you're feeling numb, if you are passive, if you are apathetic about your life, all of those things are signs of like futility. Futility is just simply, man, I'm just not accomplishing anything and we're not getting anything done. Look in your life right now. If you are lacking a sense of accomplishment, or if all of your accomplishments are behind you, I'm here to tell you that you're out of alignment in your life. Second thing that I would say along with this is, if you've stopped or are not getting any traction on any goals or purposes right now in your life, there's nothing that you've actually set your sight towards that you're not doing, and you know that you're not getting any traction, or you haven't gotten any new traction towards something, a lack of a goal, a lack of a purpose, and a lack of a milestone that I can see right now. Here I am right now in relation to my goal. If I'm not making any meaningful traction in my life, it's a sign that I'm out of alignment. Also, if the urgent or just daily life, just the activities of daily life are driving you more than your purposes. Oh, let me park here for a second, because I know that I have moms who are on here. And I think that this is something that gets moms and gets women more than it gets men in general, because you are the most relied upon. And let me honor moms for a second. You know where everything is. I know they make light and make jokes about it on Instagram of things appearing in the refrigerator that nobody could see, or, and I do the same thing with my wife. I'm like, hey, have you seen this pair of shoes? And she knows exactly where it is or whatever. I know people make light of that. A guy will never understand the burden that a mom or a wife or a woman in general actually carries in the middle of all of these things. Because there are things that if you don't take hold of them, it seems that nobody else will pick it up and no one's going to pick up your slack. Completely understand that. But this is one that I feel like gets women more than men, and gets moms especially more than anybody, is because you're sitting there and you're thinking about everybody else's needs and everything else. But this is but I want to warn you. This means that in your own life, if you're feeling a little bit off in this area, this is a reason why. Because the daily life and the daily activities and the daily things that need to get done and looking out for everybody else means that it's pulled you out of alignment for your own purposes. Third sign, you stay pretty exhausted and fatigued. And when I say pretty exhausted and fatigued, what I really mean by that is that you're more tired than you should be. You know how much activity. It's fine if you worked like 60 hours last week. It's fine if you had a lot of different things that you were doing. House cleaning, washing the car, moving, heavy lifting, yard work, like whatever. You can fill in the blank of all the things that could possibly make you exhausted. But we know what it means when you can't seem to get enough sleep, and fatigue seems to be settling in, and for some reason you just feel exhausted. You know what this is? It means your life's out of alignment. I'd also add to this as well, is that if your tiredness is winning over the motivation to get things done, you're out of alignment in your life. 4, you feel off. You ever hear anybody say that? Have you said that? I just feel kind of off. I don't know. Like, or you might even say, well, you know what? I just don't feel like myself. Or you don't feel like yourself in some kind of way. Well, what does that even mean? It means that in you, you know what your default is. You know what your personality is. You know what kind of a person that you are. You know if you're one of those people who is known for an iconic laugh, belly laughter, all those things, which I would say, if you're not seeing a lot of joy, if you can't think of the last time that you really laughed out loud and it hurt, if that's not a consistent part of your life, and I know that some people laugh more than others, I understand that. But if there was a time when you had more joy in your life, when you had more fulfillment in your life, when you had a higher level that you were living at in terms of your emotional state, that you felt really good, then that's an indicator that life's out of alignment. Some of you might even describe this as, I used to be more whatever. I used to be funnier. I used to be the life of the party. I used to be, so full of life. I used to be so vivacious. I used to have such purpose. I used to have such passion. I used to have such tenacity. I used to be so aggressive. Now, here's the thing, is that it's not that. I understand that there are certain degrees of performance orientation that's really unhealthy. And I agree with that. There's sometimes we need to turn things off. What I'm really talking about here in this is that if your personality has shifted in ways that you are not happy with, then that's telling you that you're out of alignment. Let's get to 5. 5 is this: you've just simply lost your why. And when I say you have lost your why, there's some real good indicators of that. Is that you can see in your life that your passion has waned. If you find that you get angry and you get annoyed for no obvious reason, that's not always hormones. I know we blame it on that stuff. A lot of times you're just like, oh, I'm just feeling really hormonal, or I'm this, that, or the other. If you notice that for some reason you're just, why are these people annoying me? Why is this particular person seem to annoy me when they are around, or whatever? A lot of times, because I believe that the purpose in our life and what we get up in the morning for is connected to people, and it's connected to relationships. That's something that we'll talk about in the next few weeks. And sometimes if there are certain individuals who get under our skin and it's not even their fault, that you find yourself really quickly angry or really annoyed, sometimes it can be because they're living into their purpose and we're not. But the other reason that it could be is it's because we're feeling a bit of resentment because this person in this relationship is probably keeping me from living into the life that I'm supposed to live. And that's another area of our life that we have to be aligned. We have to be aligned relationally. We have to have the right kinds of relationships with us, and we also have to have the appropriate healthy relationships in order to get to where we need to go. Hey, you're not stuck with your family, but if you're the leader in your family, then you need to start leading. I don't know who this is for, but I'm feeling this. I had no plan to say this. If you are the leader in your family, which means that you are a guardian, and that does not mean that it necessarily means that you make the most money in the household, but you are stuck with the tag of mom or dad, then you need to be leading and not being led and not being manipulated and not being treated like a puppet and not just bowing down to everybody's whims and what they want, because that is a life that's out of alignment. And at a certain point, resentment is going to cripple you. This is why anger and finding other people annoying or situations annoying, or why did I just have this anger outburst? This is what we're really talking about here, is that we're getting angry and annoyed for no obvious reason, but I'll tell you the obvious reason is that you're just out of alignment. If you feel shut down, you're a person who's lost their why, and you're out of alignment. And the last thing that I'll say on this is that if you're finding that you can't make a decision to move forward in a particular area of your life, whether that's in your career, whether it's your finances, some kind of a buying decision, it's a relational decision, whatever. If you're finding conflict right now and there's a significant decision that you need to be making in your life, but for some reason you can't seem to find the activation energy to actually make a choice, to make a decision, then that shows me right there that you're out of alignment and you don't know what your why is. Now, let's brush all that aside, because I don't want, and here's the thing, is that I never do frou-frou Mentor Mondays. I'm showing you the beginning stages of, the beginning of this entire series that we're about to do. And I'm going to give you all this information, and I'm going to give you tools, and you don't have to wonder if on a Monday night, Paul's just going to try to upsell you to something. I'm not. I'm here to actually help you in this thing. And I took a lot of time kind of giving us some foundational things, but let me finish with just a little bit of hope and also knowing where we're going in this thing. It's great news if you feel these things. It's only bad news if you're out of alignment and you feel nothing. Because I have real concerns if you're out of alignment and you're not feeling and you're not noticing any of these warning signs. See, if you're noticing these things, sometimes you don't have it really connected the dots yet, but you feel it. And you know what that tells me? It tells me that there's still due north in you, that there is something out there, and maybe you haven't resolved that. Maybe you haven't spoken to that area of yourself. Maybe you haven't been led by that thing anymore. Maybe you haven't been on due north. There is due north, but you've been going the wrong direction. Or maybe you're not even taking ground in any direction, but it's kind of floating around over here. It's all good news. It's all great news. You know why? Because it means that you're alive, you're okay, that the answer is inside you because you're a resource to yourself in this, and you can get recalibrated and you can get realigned actually pretty easily. What it really is that it's just a matter of looking at the key areas of your life to realign where your life needs to be. What is alignment? It's agreement. What did I say earlier? Alignment is agreement. All you've got to do is know your why, know where you're going, and all you got to do then is that you bring your thoughts, your choices, your action, and your direction into alignment with it. It's really that simple. That's what we're going to be doing over the next few weeks. Let me tell you where we're going again. Agreement is just alignment. That's what it is. Alignment is agreement. What am I doing? Is that I'm bringing all of these key areas in my life, these main focal points. Because if I bring a car into a car repair place, I don't have to look everywhere to try to figure out what the alignment issue is. I only need to look at a few key areas. And if I can look at a few key areas and recalibrate it, then we're back to really the car doing what it's supposed to be doing. The car shouldn't be pulling me and pushing me everywhere, and I shouldn't be looking like this. What I should be doing is that I am in control. Yes, there's going to be adjustments along the way, and some of you might just need an adjustment. You haven't had a tune-up in a while. When it comes to looking at your life, that's completely fine. That's what we need to do right now, because the car should not be driving you. You should be driving the car. You should be in control, not tense and everything else. When you know where you're going, which is an important part, I know where I'm going. I know what my why is. That's behind me. And now I've got control of this thing. And yes, there's still going to be a little bit of adjustment every now and then. There's going to be some key little tweaking here and there, but it's not like tenacity, and it's not you trying to stay so focused that you're being pulled off of the road at any given moment. What we're really talking about is getting due north in your life again and knowing what your why is. And you know what? Once you have who you are and what matters to you, and you know where you're going, then it makes all your decisions really, really easy. Makes all of those other things, makes your Relationships are forced to come into alignment. Your choices are forced to come into alignment. The decisions that you're making, the direction that you're taking every day falls into alignment. So that's all we really need to do. And that's what we're going to be really focused on over the next few weeks. Hey, just so you guys know, we do have our last online weekend certification program coming up August 25th through the 27th. Now, what we do we start on a Friday, we end on Sunday. You knock out all of your training in a single weekend. You just need to turn in your assignments and take the exam, and you're done. You're certified as a coach. I know some of you don't want to sit there and do that week after week kind of thing. And some of you can't really muster up the motivation to do self-paced. We have those things covered, as far as our life coach certification course. But for those of you who are like, dude, I need to do this, and maybe that's part of what your alignment is right now. You actually need to make a choice. You've refused to make a choice. Your job's not getting any better. Your choice with regard to purpose, your job's not going to get you there when it comes to your purpose. And it may not even be paying the bills and getting you the freedom that you want in your life. Whatever it is, there's a reason why we're talking today. And I believe that coaching is a really, really big part of it. But it requires taking a step and making a clear, irrevocable decision to do something. Now, here's what we do on one of these weekends. We start on a Friday night, and we have 7 powerful weekend sessions. What do we include in that? We include in each one of these sessions foundations of coaching, the anatomy of a dynamic coaching session, how to help your clients get extraordinary results, 2 sessions on how to listen on a transformational level, how to ask powerful questions, and how to establish a growing coaching practice. We end that weekend with me not only showing you how to do coaching agreements, but I talk to you about business structure. I talk to you about what does it look like to start a business where you can thrive financially. And if you want to leave your full-time job, we show you ways to create multiple streams of income so that you can make that happen. In the original version of bootcamp, we didn't include those things, but I never want to do anything that we're doing in a single dimensional way. Yes, you will learn coaching skills, but we want to give you some business training in that last session so that you know how to go about your business. This weekend also includes live coaching demos, and it also includes live Q&As, because I know a lot of you haven't seen coaching before. You'll be able to experience it firsthand, and you'll get to practice it, and you also get live Q&As at the end of the week. What all is included? Well, it's 7 live sessions with live Q&As and role playing. It's also coaching tools, question samples, coaching agreement, and intake samples. Also, life coach certification. Also, your certificate, HD replays and handouts, because here's what I would say. I don't expect in an accelerated weekend that you remember everything that we talked about. And so this allows you to really immerse yourself in the training all over again after the weekend is over with. You also get free audits for life once you enroll in bootcamp. Now, the cost has always been $247, but what we're doing this week only, and it's going to end on Friday, we're dropping the price to $195. And that's ridiculous. If you've looked at most training that's out there right now in the world, it's ranging from minimum $1,000 up to about $14,000. And honestly, even if you find a cheap program that's out there, it doesn't include live training, and it doesn't include engagement with your instructor or other coaches or anything else. And we've done all of these things. How are we able to do it so affordably? For one, because we made a decision to do that when we started. We've never increased our prices since we started our school 10 years ago, and we're not doing that now. We're giving you more than we've ever given you before without increasing the price. And we've also created a lot of interactivity and a lot of engagement. The other reason that we're able to do it at this price is that we don't have a sales team. So you never go through that haggle, because I'll tell you, if you need to buy a $5,000 coaching program, they're going to have to sell you, and you're going to have to pay a sales team about 20 to 25% commission to go and sell that for you. And so that drives the prices up in all of those cases. And so we've just determined that we're going to make it affordable. We're going to make it fit in your budget, and you're not going to have to deal with some kind of a sales team. This is pretty straightforward. Listen, anybody can come up with this. And you can be, if we're not resourceful enough to come up with $195, then we've got bigger belief systems and toxic thoughts and everything else than what we realize. Hey, there is a $47 a month program that you can enroll in as well. So just know that there is an easy pay for those of you who are like, man, I just can't come up with 195 up front or whatever. At least enroll $47 a month. This price is going away after Friday, and it'll go back up to $247. But again, this weekend is August 25th through the 27th. Now, now I'm going to show you a way to actually save even more money, and it's this. If you enroll in Jumpstart, that link is inside the description right now. You get boot camp, you get the life coach certification course, you get trained and certified as a coach, and you get all of our business development courses, which literally gives you the A to Z business development roadmap that includes Wednesday night group coaching calls. It includes Tuesday night training as well as boot camp. You get it all for $97 a month with a 3-month minimum commitment. Now, that costs us more money because we make more money when you go for the one-time payment kind of thing. When you do that and you just do the course, we technically make more money and you're in and out. And you know what? If you want to do that, more power to you. But it's only $97 out of pocket, up front, and then 90-day minimum commitment. You can cancel anytime after that. You can join us for a boot camp. You can also join us Tuesday nights for the life coach certification course, where we go week by week in the training. You'll also get access to all of the courses that are involved. Our branding course called Brand Camp. You're also going to get the coaching product launch blueprint, where we show you how to take an idea from thought to actually launching a product or launching your practice. We've thought through every one of those steps. I'm just encouraging you tonight, whatever is the next step. I'm not trying to confuse you. It's either go for Jumpstart or just get trained and certified on August 25th through the 27th. But you do need to act now, because I will tell you this price does go away on Friday, and you won't be able to negotiate it back, because it's just it's gonna expire, and then on Saturday it's gonna be $247 again. And so I'm just gonna highly encourage you, click the link inside the description, get enrolled. It'll take you about 90 seconds. And again, you're going to continue having access to all the course. You'll also, if you enroll in boot camp, we'll also continue inviting you to come to Tuesday night training. So you're never on your own. We're not just some internet school where you go through the training and you download your certificate. We're high touch. We have a lot of opportunities for you to engage with other coaches as well as me. And so we want to take you by the hand and make this happen. Let us do that with you. Let's make a clear, irrevocable decision to do that, even tonight. Let me say hello to a couple more people who are in here. Tara says, this is my favorite program. Thank you, Tara. Who else do I need to say hello to who is in here? Renee from California. Good to see you, Renee. So good. Well, cool. Well, I am going to head out of here. Got a little, thank you, Miles. I got a little send off. That's one of the things in California. Everybody's leaving California. Probably every one of you who are living in another state, whether you're in Vegas like Tara or wherever you're at, if you're in Texas right now or whatever, you're probably meeting people who are moving from California. And so we're saying goodbye to some good friends and hosting them tonight. So I'm going to be heading out of here so that I can go make an appearance at that party and say a tearful goodbye. You just never get, it's so sad to always say goodbye, but you're always saying goodbye to people in California. So, oh, wow. All right, everyone. Well, listen. Oh, and here's what Tara's saying about boot camp. Tara says, boot camp is an incredible experience. I've attended 3 of them, and I always learn something new. There you go. There's your selling point. Thanks for the sales, Tara. All right. Well, I am going to head out of here. Listen, I appreciate you guys all immensely. Click the link inside of the description and get enrolled tonight. It'll take you about 90 seconds. Have a great rest of your week and take care. Hey, how's it going, everyone? Welcome to Mentor Monday. Mentor Monday is your weekly microdose of encouragement, inspiration, and miracle grow on your potential as a coach. I am here over here in California with my dad shirt on. Yes, I am a child of the 80s, and I never stopped loving neon colors. And if I could wear neon colors every day, I would do it. But today I've officially got the dad shirt on. I got the collared Under Armour looking like I'm going to go coach a team somewhere or something like that. But I'm here with you guys. So anyway, I don't get to wear neon all the time, but this past weekend I saw an Aflac commercial with Deion Sanders, and he's wearing a electric blue jacket, and I'm like, oh, I told my daughter, I was like, I'd love to have that jacket, but I don't know that I could get away with it, but I'd love to have it. So anyway, hey, do me a huge favor. Let us know that you are here. Jump inside of the chat right here. Don't be shy, whether you're on YouTube or on Facebook. Let us know that you're here. Tell us where you're joining us from, what you're excited about, what you feel life and momentum on in your life. Also, it does us a huge favor if you will like this and share it. That tells YouTube and it tells Facebook that we're doing a good job. That way it gets suggested to people who are looking for the same kinds of things in terms of building their coaching practice out, encouragement, all of those kinds of things. So do me a huge favor, jump inside of the chat widget right now and let us know that you are here. Julia from Seattle, how's it going? Or is it Julia? Patricia's actually from Seattle. That's Julia from Toronto. Welcome. Good to see both of you. If you would, everybody, as you're making it into the room, do me a huge favor. See this right here? Jump in the chat widget and just let us know that you're. Give us a hi. Also, like this post and share it. Really important to us because we want to help as many coaches as we possibly can. And if we're giving valuable things to you, if you're finding value in these things, then we want it to get in front of other people as well. Jennifer's joining us from Phoenix, Arizona. Welcome, Jennifer. Thank you. And who else is saying hello? Troy is saying hello. It actually says good evening, hand pink waving. Apparently it doesn't want to let your emoji get through there, Troy. And I know Troy's joining us from Louisiana. Lawrence is joining us from Vegas. Welcome, Lawrence. Anybody else? Give me a shout out, everybody. Jump inside of the chat widget really quick and just let me know you're here. I'm all the way over here in California. And, the thing about being in California is I'm over here in a studio, so I can't see you guys. So the best thing that you can do is just say hello to us. Tanya is joining us from Texas. Welcome, Tanya. Anybody else like to say hello? I'm about to jump in, and we're going to be in, I believe, week 4 of this series, and tonight's going to be the best week yet. So I'm glad that you guys are making it. Tonight is going to be extraordinarily valuable, and it's going to, I really believe, be catalytic for some of you guys. So I'm glad that you're here. Yeah, Troy says, I am Adrian's good friend. If you guys are wondering, he's referring to my brother-in-law, who's crushing it right now in his life and everything else. So proud of him. Anybody else like to say hello to us? And we're about to jump in about 15 seconds. Anybody else like to say hello before we jump in there? I'm about 30 seconds ahead of you guys. So I'll give you guys about 15 seconds to say hello. And I'll also come back for any questions that are on here. I've got a couple of questions for you today. And so hopefully you guys will play along as we're doing this. So keep all of those hellos and everything going on. We're going to jump in. So for the last few weeks, we've been talking about living an aligned life. Tonight, we are talking about the power of clarity. And there's a really good reason why we're talking about clarity. Clarity is not the same thing as talking about vision and goals and some of those other things, because here's what I find. I find a lot of people dream about what they want, but a lot of people are not actually getting or nearly as many living into what they want. And we're going to try to solve that problem tonight. by helping you get aligned and helping you. And how we're going to do that is you've gotten a couple of questions answered over the last couple of weeks and trying to align with what's most important and everything else. Tonight, what I want you to have is clarity so you know what action to actually take in your life. So, with no further delay, let me say hello to a couple more people really quick. Let me say hello. Who did I say? Charlotte is in the house. DTG from Charlotte. Good to see you. Keep those comments and everything rolling in, and also any questions or anything else as we jump in. So where are we going to begin? Well, there's going to be really 3 steps to getting clarity, and here's what they are. The first step to getting clarity so that your life gets aligned is that you've got to get specific. And what I see in most cases, in most people's lives, is that they're not very specific about the things that they say that they want in their life. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is, what does the life you want look like in explicit detail? Because if you do not get into explicit detail, you're never going to get any traction in your life, because you will not get traction with dreamy thoughts. You will not get traction with wishes, and you will not get traction with vague ideas about the kind of life that you want. What do I mean by that? Well, how many people say things like, I want to make more money? Well, doesn't everyone? Pretty much everybody says that. I'd like to make more money. That's really what their heart is. I'd like to make more money. I'd like to make more money than what I have right now. I'd like to have a better income or whatever. Most people would say, I want to make more money. Everybody wants it. But have you noticed that pretty much no one is making more money right now? As a matter of fact, people in many cases are either making the same or they're making less money than they were even 10 years ago. If your salary right now, whatever you're making, hasn't increased by at least 25% over the last 10 years, you are losing money. That's what the statistics will actually tell us. And that was actually before all of the inflation craziness and everything else. So there's plenty of people who say, I want to make more money. They're not making more money. Why is it? It's not specific. It's not specific enough. It's something that you would like to have, but we're talking about dreams. We're talking about wishes, and there's not any real action or traction getting into that. You know, people also say this, I want to leave my current job. I hear it all the time. Most of you are watching me tonight because you are wanting to make more money, and you are wanting to leave the career that you're in right now for a lot of different reasons. Because it's unfulfilling, you're doing work for someone else, you're not building anything for yourself, and you know that in your current job, you're not going to get any traction, and you're not going to get that salary increase no matter what you do. You're kind of stuck, right? But I want to leave my current job isn't making people leave their current job, is it? They should really ask this follow-up question, which I would ask you. Yeah, you want to leave your current job, but what do you need to make in order to do that? You should have those numbers. When I left my previous career to go full-time in coaching, I remember at the beginning of that year that I was like, you know what? I never had a goal to go full-time in coaching. I always thought it would be a side gig. I always thought I'm going to make enough money to make ends meet because my existing job wasn't cutting it, wasn't making enough money to pay for our rent or anything else. Basically, it was taking a paycheck and a half to pay our rent in California. And then I had a little bit left over to feed my kids and stuff like that. And we did thrift store. We did all of those other things to try to make it. So when I started my coaching practice, I had a lot of different considerations that were going on. And I'm like, well, I want to make ends meet. I want to make more money. And you know what I did? I made ends meet through my coaching practice, and I made more money. That's as much as I did. Here's the interesting thing is that out of that vague notion, that's as much as my heart really wanted to give to it, because I was terrified of doing my own business. I was terrified of counting on myself, all of those other things. So it's a really interesting thing is that one day, though, I was like, I just made more money in one day than I'm going to make in 2 weeks. That's when my coaching practice had really taken off and everything else. And I was like, well, how long would it really take if I was to leave this to make up the difference? And when I sat there and did the math, I was making about $30 an hour, a little under $30 an hour in my regular job. And that's nothing to sneeze at if I was living somewhere besides San Diego, you know? And so when I started thinking about it, then I was like, oh, I know what kind of income that I need to make up. Here's what I'm making right now, but how long would it take me to make up this kind of income? And some people would be like, oh, well, there's no way that I could make up $60,000 a year, give or take a few thousand. But actually, when you sit around and you're like, no, I'm making $30 an hour here. If I'm coaching somebody and I'm a cheap coach at $100 an hour, that means that for one client, I've just eliminated almost half of my workday. Not to mention that I'm going to be working for myself, so I'm not getting all of these other things that are kind of like cut out, and I can actually control how much of that money actually makes to me, because you don't get $60,000. You don't. There's a lot of other things. And so when I sat down and I did the math, I'm like, oh, I know actually what it would take. See, when you know what it takes, when you get specific, that's when you start to get traction. You know, sometimes people will say stuff, well, I want to have financial freedom. In almost every case with every coach that I talk to about why they want to become a coach, that is one of the main ones that's at the very top. I hear it all the time, but I don't even know what that means. I don't know if any of you really know what financial freedom means. What does freedom mean specifically for you? I mean, really, does that mean that you can spend as much money as you want? Does it mean that you get to be more generous to your kids? Does it mean that you can splurge every now and then? Does it mean that you can eat out a little bit more often? Does it mean that you're not, like, what does financial freedom mean? I don't think that most of us have thought through the implications of what does financial freedom mean. And however I'm defining freedom is also going to determine how much money I make, because I'm also thinking about how much money it takes for me to truly be free. And so if you don't know how much money you need to make, you don't have a way, a means, an idea of how you're going to leave your current job. If you can't even truly define what financial freedom is, the reality is that you're probably never going to do it. And this is the reason why you don't have traction in your life right now towards getting, because listen, it's fine to sit around and talk about what's most important and some cutesy coaching questions and everything else. Tonight, what we're really talking about is that clarity helps you think about the action that's involved and the steps that you must take. Otherwise, you're not going to move towards this thing. So the first part is really about getting specific. And here's the second thing that I would really say with that is that your mind is the master and your brain is a servant. But the brain actually needs specific instructions. And because you're not giving it specific instructions, it doesn't know how to move forward, and it doesn't know how to help you. See, because here's what ends up happening is that when you're vague, here's what your brain is doing. It's this. When you're being vague and you're just dreaming, all your brain's saying, when you say, I want to make more money, I'd like to have financial freedom, I'd like to quit my current job, your brain's kind of is not really engaged. The deeper part of you is not really engaged because you haven't committed to anything and you're being really vague. So the brain's kind of sitting there like, oh, well, that's a nice dream. This is the way that it's computing. That's a really nice dream, but they don't really have an intention to get it. So what your brain does, it's going to maintain the program that it's in. And your existing program right now is to keep things in getting by mode, survival mode, as is mode. This is why you haven't gotten traction and you haven't started that career, even though most of you have been dreaming about this for a really long time. You don't have an intention to start a coaching career. You don't have an intention to get into financial freedom. You don't have an intention to truly make more money. And you don't have an intention to do this thing. And your brain knows it. So you know what your brain does? Its brain's like, well, they're just over there dreaming again, but they don't have any intention, because intention means I've already thought about, I've done the math, I've done the work, I've written it down. I know what it's going to take. I know what's involved, and my heart has locked onto it. And here's a beautiful thing is that when you kick that in, here's what your brain does. When you get specific, a little thing called the reticular activating system, it's the RAS. You know what it does? It goes into overdrive, helping you get what you want. How does it do that? Well, have you ever wanted to get a specific car or some kind of a toy, some kind of a materialistic kind of thing? Let's just say car because it's really easy. See a really nice car and you're like, man, I really like to have that car. I really like those cars. And then you know what you end up doing? You end up researching a little bit about the car. And as you go along, you notice that your heart's getting more like, I like that car more than any. And you go past dreaming. And what ends up happening is that when your heart locks onto something and you begin to decide and you're saying, I'm going to find a way to get that car, then all of a sudden the RAS kicks in. And here's what happens. You're driving down the freeway and you look to the left, and what's next to you is that car in the exact color that you want it. You come out of Walmart, you go in the parking lot, what's parked right next to your car, your existing car, the car that you want. You turn on the radio station, and what do you hear? Here's 0% financing for whatever credit score for what? That particular car. Here's what ends up happening is that when you are specific, because this is what happens. When you decide you want that car, it's a specific color, it's got specific features, all of these different kinds of things that you know and you're dreaming about, but more importantly, that we've gotten specific and the heart latches onto it. You know, your reticular activating system, this part in your brain is brilliant at helping you get what you want. Being specific is more important than knowing how. It's that you've just got to know what it is that you want, and you've really got to lock your heart onto it and truly have an intention. See, I can look at what some of the results that someone has in their life, and I know this is offensive. The results you have in your life is the intention that you've set your heart by right now. There is no separation from those things. So the things that you don't like about your life, about your bank account, all of these other kinds of things, right now you've got a program that believes that that's what you want, and it keeps getting it consistently. That's why you guys can tell me next month how much money you're going to be making and who you're going to be hanging out with, and even what you're going to be eating during the week. You can tell me that probably 90 days from now. You know why? Because it's intention. It's powerful. Based on all of the factors in the programs that you're running on, you've got a lot of control in your life, and you're determining those things. So if we want to determine something else, we've got to get specific, and we got to make these things actually work for us. Here's the second thing, though. What's the personal result that you want? So when you're getting specific, you need to ask these kinds of questions. What's the personal result that you want with regard to your coaching career? What is the personal result in your finances that you want? And then we got to get to specific. So how much is that? And what does that mean? Does it mean debt elimination? What does that mean? We need a number. Because if you don't have a number, you're just going to be like, it's like throwing darts at no dartboard. You need to actually have a number. What does that number look like? If I'm replacing finances, if I'm just increasing my finances or whatever, you need to know. What's the personal result in your marriage that you want? What is the personal result that you want in your children? What is the personal result in your spiritual life? Think through all of these things, because all of these pieces really run together. This is how you get an aligned life, because it's not just about your finances and it's not just about your career, but you're going to see that all these things are really integrated, that any part of your life that's not in alignment, it's because you haven't been specific. You've dreamed, but what you've got to do is that you've got to have intention, which means that I'm going to think through the minute details about what this perfectly aligned life would look like. And I'm going to make a decision to intend to see that thing happen in my life. You know what? You must have your why. I've talked about this a little bit. The question is, why do you want it? And when I say, why do you want it? I'm not trying to criticize you, and I'm not trying to question your motives. When I'm asking that, I'm asking it for a real reason, because I believe in your why. So what is your why? What are your convictions? What are you convicted about in your life that you are supposed to be doing? What are the things that you have been putting off and not doing and putting intention into that make you feel guilty, that make you feel off, that make you feel sad, that make you feel like, what am I doing in my life? The only reason why you're feeling those things is that you know that there is something, there's a greater purpose for your life. There is a calling, might even be something spiritual that you might have even heard from God about your life and you haven't moved forward. What are your convictions? What are you devoted to in your life currently? What are the things that you've devoted your life to? Let me ask you another big question. Who does it matter most to? And I know some of you are really giving people and you think more about everybody else than you do yourself, and that's completely fine. I love that. I love that we're not selfishly oriented people. So think about, who does it matter? Your clients, the world, your community, your ideal client, whatever it is. But here's a big question, because this needs to come home and be personal. Who loses the most if you do not go after this thing in your life? I'm looking at you right now. I want to say this with conviction. Who loses the most in your life if you do not go after this thing, specifically in your coaching journey? You need to personalize this part right here. And there's a reason why. Because me and in myself, I'm not a materialistic person. I really don't care. If I wasn't married and didn't have kids and all this other stuff, you could put me in a bedroom with a microwave and a couch and I'm fine. I don't need anything. I'm really okay with that. I'm really okay with dialing it back and being frugal. You know, if I'm living in the South or something, I definitely want to have AC or something like that. But outside of those kinds of minor kinds of things, I don't need much and I don't care. Here's the other thing, is that a lot of times people say, my why is this big and it's a big purpose on the entire planet. And here's the problem, is that you can't personalize that. And if you don't show up in your everyday life, the planet doesn't always know. Planet doesn't always see it. Sometimes in your everyday life, you don't know how what you're doing is actually impacting anybody else on the planet. But you know who it does matter to? You do know who it matters to. If you're married, it's mattering to your spouse. If you have children, especially your children, you've got to personalize your why. See, every day that I get up, I see my why because it lives under the same roof as me. My why is my wife. My why are my 3 daughters. I hug my whys. I kiss my why. I talk to my why. I dream about my whys because every day it matters to them that I show up. And I'm not saying that when you go after this big thing in your life that you are not going to have setbacks and obstacles. The day that you choose to do something new in your life, there's going to be something that gives you pushback. But you know what keeps you honest? You know what makes you go right through and towards the obstacles? You know what makes you not quit? You know what makes you not cheat? You know what makes you not quit and hide and get your feelings hurt because I don't want to put myself out there? You know what makes you confront the fear? You know what keeps you in the game, in the trenches? I'll tell you what keeps you in the game. So when you personalize it, because when I look in my kids' eyes, I have to say every day, did I show up big time today or not? Because they're going to know. They see me every day. We live under the same roof. They know if dad's living into his purpose or not. I can't hide it from them. And the bigger thing is I can't hide from myself when I know that I'm not stepping in and truly giving my best and I'm not living for my why. Some of you, listen, if this thing is in your heart, coaching's a purpose, a major purpose in your life. Some of these other things that you say that are important about financial freedom and quitting that existing job and having time and all of this other stuff, setting your own schedule, autonomy and everything else. I know that it's unto something. It's not unto you just getting a fancy car. I know that. I hear from you guys all the time. It is personalized in the people that are directly impacted by you getting rewarded for the work that you put yourself into. And I know what it feels like when I can't help my kids. I know what it feels like because I remember being that parent of like, We're going to try to make something work, and I'm going to try to do a side hustle over here to try to make something. But at the same time, I'm like, am I really showing up in my life, living into my purpose, or am I shrinking back because, you know what? I feel like I owe my kids something. I really do. And every day it keeps me honest. It makes me, you know what? There are some days I could quit on myself. I can't quit on them. And that's why your purpose has got to be so important to you. We experienced the lean years. I have a picture of the back of our van after I lost my job, and we were 6 months. I was 6 months unemployed. It's a scary place to be when you're living in California and you've got huge rent. And we had this old Chrysler Grand Voyager, white van. It was like a 1990 something. I don't know what it was. And we put all of our stuff in storage that we could fit. And the rest of the stuff, you just see it, trash bags, all kinds of stuff in the back. And I turned around and I looked at it and I'm like, I knew I had to do better than this. This is my life. I couldn't run from it, but I got to do better than this. And it made me show up big time all over again. And I don't do this stuff to sit around and haunt and feel guilty or whatever, but you got to have a greater purpose. Because me, I could have just, if it was just me, I'd just live in a van. I don't really care. But when it comes to them, I know that I've got to show up big time because I don't really have any excuses. None of you who are watching me tonight, you're watching me on a device, you're watching me with internet access. You have powerful tools right in front of you where you can make a six-figure business off of your phone and not even have to leave the comfort of your own home. This is the opportunities that they afford us right now. And what makes you consistent in your everyday life to do the things that you're supposed to do are these kinds of people, and especially the ones who are going to lose. It's more than what you lose. Is your family going to lose because you didn't show up and because you didn't say yes and make an intention towards your why? That's what we're talking about in terms of personalizing it. You know, your why determines what you do with your obstacles. Are you going to run from what you're afraid of? Are you going to run from failure? Or are you going to run towards it because you realize that your obstacle is no match for you when you've got conviction and when you've got a person? You know, when me and my wife got married, we said a traditional part of our vows that most people do, which is till death do us part. Now, when I said till death do us part, and she said it, we said it in a higher level of conviction than other people do in many cases. A lot of times people say that and it's just words. Not for us. In all the years that we've been married, the D word was never considered. The divorce word, we've never spoken it. We've been through the ringer with stuff. When you're laid off for 6 months, when you lose everything, for most people, they're like, I'm done at this point. When you're dealing with chronic illness, when you have deaths in the family, I can tell you tragedy after tragedy, but you know what? There was no other option because the why is the commitment takes everything off of the table. There's no other options. This is what happens, is that when you know there's no other options, then you have to go through obstacles. You might get tested every now and then, but there's no question of what your why is and what you're going to do. Here's the last thing. What is your bridge burner to the past? And what I really mean by that is, what is your plan that involves a clear, irrevocable action? And when I say that, what I mean by that is it's because there's so many people who are running around with a plan B. If you start your journey with a plan B, you haven't really chosen anything. And coaches do it all the time, just like most people do. And their plan B sounds something like this. Plan B's communicate to your heart that you don't believe and you're not committed, so it requires a clear, irrevocable action that burns the bridge to the past. Here's what I mean by that. If you start your coaching career and you're like, hey, if this coaching thing doesn't work out, I've got this job, I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. Now, I'm not against plan B. But here's what happens with your heart. Remember when we were saying about the heart a while ago? Your heart is programmed to do and keep the status quo and keep things as is and to keep you safe, to keep you comfortable, all of those other things. But here's what happens is that if you start out saying, I'm going to have a plan B, which is life as it is right now, your heart will stay anchored to what is in now, and you will never become a coach and you will never live into your purpose. That's the way that the heart works. The heart can't be divided. You might even say that you are double-minded to start. Do I want to start this career and go after this purpose and to go after my why, or do I want to stay where I am right now? Double-mindedness, you know what it's going to do? Your default's always going to win out because you're not choosing anything new. That means that you've got to make a choice that effectively burns your bridges. And listen, the how's not what's important. The how you get there, because plan B can happen. I thought this is the way that it was going to work out. Listen, we had a plan A when we got married. Well, I don't know what that plan A was, but I don't know what plan we're on now. We're still married. We're still in love. We've got great kids, all of that other stuff. But there were things in the way that when I thought that we would get from here to here, there was obstacles in the way. The commitment was there. That was the most important thing. And that we knew what was most important to us, where we're going. But plan B, C, D, E, F, G doesn't really matter as long as I burn the bridge. The burning the bridge is, this is where we are going, and we're not leaving any options of going back. I'm not going back to single life. Like if I told you guys and I started and I'm like, if this marriage thing doesn't work out, I can always go back to single life. You would tell me as my coach, you would say, Paul, you are not committed to anything and your marriage is doomed from the very beginning. We know that. And it's true for every other purpose in life. So that when I get on this side, I have to choose an action that is decisive, that I'm not going back to that life no matter what happens. Now, if that means that I'm a part-time coach over here, if it means I choose my niche, if it means that I'm got kind of a traditional coaching practice, it means that I'm doing a lot of group coaching over here. It means like there's all kinds of surprises on this other end. When I'm not going back, it just may not look like I thought plan A was going to look. It's got to be different than your life is now. And you've got to take an action that changes everything. So here's some wrap-up questions, right? And you guys got to ask these things to yourself. What do you want? What do you want in explicit detail? And why do you want it? When are you going to start? What action will you take? And I'm not saying way in the future. I'm saying now. Like if you won't take decisive action today, unlikely that you're going to take it in another time. Decisive action means if I'm going to think about it, because some of you are like, oh, this is good. I'm going to think about it. I'm going to tell you not to think about it, because thinking about it will lead you to, in 30 minutes, your heart's going to be in a different place and you'll be just scrolling through some other Instagram and you'll move on. You've got to, when your heart gets awakened to something, that you actually make a decision, or you're making a decision not to. That's what you're telling your heart. So what is that decisive action that you need to take that burns your bridges? What is the deadline for when you want this to be in place? If you don't have a deadline, it's not going to happen. What are the monthly milestones that will keep you on track? And tonight, what is your first step? The other thing that I would say in here again is who loses if you don't? Who's the number one person that if you had to go and say, hey, I just wanted you to know, I know this directly impacts you, but I'm choosing fear over you in this case. I'm choosing comfort and not facing my imposter syndrome, my perfectionism and everything. I'm choosing not to engage over you in this case. That my bigger commitment is staying comfortable than it is to go through the obstacles so that we have everything that we're supposed to have. I want to personalize it in that kind of way, because I don't think that there's any other way to get us motivated enough to do anything unless it's something that's beyond us. Now, if you can connect it with a world cause or whatever, that's great. But I think that there's people presently in our life right now that are counting on us, and they're waiting on us to shine. They're waiting on us to be bold. They're waiting on us to, cut a path for them so that they can do it. And it begins with us. For those of you who have not gotten trained and certified as a coach, best deal that I can offer you is our Jumpstart program. It's $97 a month with a 3-month minimum commitment. All of those things that you see on the screen are things that they include. What does it include? Well, it includes the Life Coach Certification course. It's our self-paced course. It's about 30 hours of total training that you can knock out self-paced. That means that you can get certified as quickly as you want if you're really intentional and you process through the modules. But Jumpstart also includes Bootcamp, which is happening at the end of the month. It's our weekend certification program. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you knock out all of your training so that you can complete your certification. But Jumpstart doesn't just stop there. Yes, training and certification is important, but 90% of your business, 90% of your business is not the skills that you learn. It's actually knowing how to go out and get clients and everything else. So Jumpstart covers all of that. We have our branding course. It's 13 hours of training that's included in Jumpstart, where we take you step by step to help you knock out your marketing message. We show you how to write a sales page. We show you how to write effective emails. We show you how to build your website out. We show you how to optimize your website for search engines. We show you what to do on social media, all of those other kinds of things. It's all covered inside of BrandCamp. We also have another thing called the Coaching Product Launch Blueprint. And we take you through brainstorming all the way to creating a product, to website development, social media posts, all of those things. So if you're wanting to create a product or you're just wanting to launch your coaching practice, we bring you from idea generation all the way through to the other side so that we leave you with no guesswork. Jumpstart also includes a weekly group coaching call where we give you feedback on anything that you're working on. You can also connect with other students, because Tuesday night training is one option where you can connect with other students. That's included in the Life Coach Certification course and in Jumpstart, where you can connect with me. So we train you, we get you certified. You can also do your homework with other coaches, because you can create homework buddies and all of those other kinds of things. They're also amazing people who are geniuses in their own right, but they're also not only going to keep you accountable, but they're also going to keep you encouraged, because you don't have to do this thing alone. Wednesdays in our group coaching call, I answer any questions that you have. We give you feedback on anything that you're working on. We celebrate wins. And again, it's another opportunity to connect inside your community. We take all of your excuses away. We've kept the price point really low because we are not paying commissions to anybody. You don't have to go through sales haggling or anything else. Most programs are giving away 25% of your tuition just to pay for a sales team, because they've got a really expensive program. We're giving you the same training, but we're actually showing you how to build a successful coaching practice, and we're doing it in relationship on your own schedule. We're putting all the dynamics in your hand to be able to be successful. But you do need to enroll and join us and let us be a part of that. We've eliminated the risk, because you're not going to be thousands of dollars in the hole, and you're going to be a more confident coach, and you're going to know the steps that you need to take. A to Z business development roadmap, and also connection with us so that you can be successful. And we want to do that with you. So let me look over here in the comments. Tara says, Jumpstart is worth every single penny. And Tara also says, the Blueprint product is my favorite. Thank you so much. Let me go back and say hello to a few more people. Cookie's joining us from Charlotte. Hi. There's Gigi. How's it going, Gigi? And there's Jennifer saying hello. Anybody else want to say hello? I appreciate you guys so much. Jen says mindset matters. Absolutely. Very good. Well, listen, everybody, it's been a good night. We're going to wrap up this series next week, and I hope you were encouraged. I hope you were inspired, and I hope that you can even go back and you can look at these questions and you can think through the answers, because this is the way that we get traction in our life. Let's make bold commitments. Let's be who we're capable of being, and let's live into our fullest potential, and let's change the world while we're doing it, and have fun and be financially free. All of those things. It can all be done, and it's not a pipe dream. It's actually possible for you. We watch people do it all the time, and you can do it. So listen, I appreciate you guys all immensely. Have a great rest of your week, and take care. How's it going, everyone? Welcome to our special Tuesday edition of Mentor Monday. We decided we weren't going to go live on Mentor Monday because it was Monday and it was a holiday for so many people, including myself. And so we actually kind of thought about putting everything off another week. But the reality is that I really wanted to get this material out in front of you so that you could be processing it so that we can really hit the ground running next week in terms of this particular series, which is living an aligned life. But here's what we would love to do. It's always really important to me to connect with you because we're all the way out here in California. Do me a huge favor. See this? Let us know that you're here. Jump inside of the chat and say hello. Tell us where you're joining us from, what you're excited about, what you feel life and momentum on in your life. We want to connect with you. So that would be huge for us. Also, do me a huge favor. Like this post and share it. That tells Facebook and YouTube that we're doing a good job. And there's Joan from Bakersfield. You're always so faithful, Joan. How's it going, Joan? Again, if you are just making it into the room, do us a huge favor. Let us know that you are here. Jump inside of the chat and say hello to us. Tell us where you're joining us from and what you feel life and momentum on, and also any kind of questions and everything that you might have. I need to get my trusty clicker going over here. Now that I think about it, I did not. At least we charged the thing, and then we'll be able to jump in and go. So we will keep that going. I don't want to delay because we're probably going to have to do a hard stop today because I have a really great meeting that's going to follow this. Diane's joining us from South Carolina. Good to see you, Diane. So we might as well jump in with no further delays. Let's do that. So over the last couple of weeks, if you've been with us, we've been talking about living an aligned life. So this is actually part 3. And one of the things that we talked about in week 1 was some of the signs that you might be living your life out of alignment. And in the last couple of weeks, specifically last week, we talked about what are some of the things that are most important to you. Because if you're not living your life in alignment with what's most important, then the result's always going to be pain. But if you have a greater sense, and we gave you some of those questions and some of those thoughts last week, I'm going to give you more questions today because next week we're going to talk about taking specific action steps towards some of these things. But where are you going? And the reality is that most people don't really know the answer to that. If I said, where are you going? What I really mean is, do you have a lifetime plan for where you're headed? And if I said, do you have a lifetime plan for where you're headed? Then most people are going to be like, no, Paul, I don't have a lifetime plan. That sounds ridiculous. Okay. Do you have a 10-year plan? And most people will tell you, no, I don't have a 10-year plan. Okay. What about 5-year plan? No. What about a 3-year plan? What about a 1-year plan? And I would say that the vast majority of people do not even have a 6-month plan ahead. And when I say a 6-month plan, I'm talking about really thinking about what you want your life to actually look like in the future. And the reality is, because most people don't have a plan, there is no intentionality in their life, then it's anybody's guess who they're going to become. And it's anybody's guess in terms of what their life is going to become because they are not actually stewarding their life very well. They're not the people who are grabbing a hold and determining and designing their life. Actually, what's happening is that life is kind of happening to them. They're not creating life. They're not determining life. Life's kind of happening. Matter of fact, what's happening really is that we're living in a reactive posture to everything that life throws at us. And so you hear more often than not people who are out of control in their life or just responding and reacting to what's happening, and that life always seems really, really hard rather than actually being determined. But I don't know where you stand, and maybe you're kind of like, well, I'm doing pretty good in my life and all of that other stuff. Well, let me throw some questions, because today what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw a lot of questions, not to make you think poorly about your life. What I want to find out is where you really are under the surface. And we talked about that in a general kind of sense, about a 35,000 foot view a couple of weeks ago. but I want to propose some questions to you. And again, they're life alignment questions, but they are pointed questions about whether or not you're actually designing the life that you want, that you're determining the life that you want. And really, these are questions all around intentionality. And here's what those questions really are. Can you say yes to any of these following questions? And here's the first question. Is your current career stagnant or unfulfilling? Given the fact that almost every one of you are working 40 hours a week, not only going 40 hours a week, you are waking up in the morning for that job. You're interrupting your sleep for that job. You are giving at least an hour of time, in most cases, sometimes a little bit longer than that, to get dressed for that job. You are also waking up, probably thinking about that job. You're in preparation for it. You are driving, you're expending gas money for that job. You are extending all the resources of yourself, of your wisdom, your thinking, your creativity, all of these other kinds of things. And you are actually invested enough to spend your time all day at that job. And also that you're going to allow people to tell you when you can eat and you cannot eat, and you're going to follow rules all day in order to keep that job. And you're also going to be hitting certain benchmarks that they determine for you so that you don't really have autonomy in that place. You are serving, not that there's anything wrong with serving, but you are serving everything that is about what vision they're creating and what financials they're creating and all of those other kinds of things. Having said all of that, is your current career stagnant or unfulfilling? Now, there's a lot of different measures that you can have whether or not something is stagnant, but is it challenging you? Have you grown? Are you becoming a better person? Are you learning new skills? Are you making more money? And that thing has to be out there. Reality is that if you guys aren't making about 25% more than you were making 10 years ago, you're actually losing money on your current trajectory. Just so that we know where we're standing. So this is why it's really important for you to actually think about where you are going, where you're going on your current trajectory. You may not be able to afford the things that you could afford 5 years ago unless you're making significantly more money. And last I checked, when you work for someone or work in a career, there's only a couple of different ways that you can make more money. Move from one company to another, get some new skills, apply some new knowledge. You're essentially going to have to create something, make yourself more valuable, or go somewhere where people value you more. And so I want you to think about this, because we're talking about, is your current, because your current career is stagnant if you're making the same or less money than you were 10 years ago. I'm sorry, that is one measure, because we're talking about lifestyle, that your lifestyle is suffering. And usually for us, is we're choosing a career because it's going to add to our lifestyle. I'd have to throw in there, when we say stagnant or unfulfilling, that does it create anxiety? Does it create stress? Does it create stress because what is happening at work is affecting your family? Is it creating stress because you don't have the time that you wish that you had? There's problems at work. There is a culture at work that you don't enjoy working in. The task at hand, do you enjoy? Is that fulfilling you? Is it challenging you? Do you feel like, man, I've given my life to something amazing today? Did you, when you came home, did you not even worry about the bills that you had coming in, because we know that everything's taken care of? These are big kinds of things. So is there a yes to anything? Because I've got to qualify some of these questions. Is there a yes there? But we'll keep going on, all right? We keep going on. Do you have any relationships right now that make you sad because they could be much more than what they are? Do you have any relationships? And I want you to think of all of them. And when I say that, I'm not saying that on the other end, because sometimes people like to blame people. And some people, I'm talking about the things that are within your power, that are attainable for you. That you could say that, man, I haven't shown up in life like I would have liked to have in this. Like, there's a relationship that matters to you. It's your child. Man, I wish I was there for my kid more. I wish I was closer to my child. I wish that I had deeper conversations with my child. Or you might even look at your spouse and say, man, we've been married and we got a good marriage. We don't have a great marriage. Well, those are choices. Those are choices where what I would say is you don't have a picture of what you want that future to look like specifically that you know that you're taking action towards. So it means that we are living an unintentional life because we have relationships that are happening right now that we're sad about, that we know could be a lot more, but and here's what I would say is that you have actually more of an intention to not do anything about it than you have an intention to do something about it. Because to choose to not be intentional that's what your intention is. You have the career that you want right now because of the intention that you put into it. You have the level of relationship that you want, that as it's up to you because of the intention that you put into it every day. Keep going. Is guilt and regret a regular visitor to your life? Going back to guilt and regret, why would you experience guilt? Because there's things in your life that are really, really important and you know that you're settling. There's something that you know that there is a inner compass, I would say, that tells you what matters most and you know you're settling. And that's always going to create guilt. There's also regret because there was decisions that you could have made a really, really long time ago that right now you're like, oh, I think that's impossible. Is there any regret, active regret in your life right now? Is that a yes or a no? All right, let's keep going. Was there a time, do you feel like you've settled when you know you have so much more potential? And this can produce regret, and it can produce guilt as well. If you know that you have more potential than what you have lived into, and when I say potential, I say that there is learning that is possible for you. There are skills that are possible for you to learn, to throw yourself into. When you look and you show up in life, are you working a job? Are you operating in life in any capacity where you know that my potential is this big, but for some reason, at least for the last couple of years, I've only gone this far. I've only developed, or I know that I'm not developing these things because it's going to require a little bit of work. Then this is telling me that we don't have, do you realize that you're infinite? I'm not saying you're eternal. I'm not saying you're God. I'm saying that you're infinite. How do I know that? Is because we know people who have fewer skills, less wisdom, less genius than we do, and they're getting more out of their life than we are. We all know that. We know people that we went to school with that are a fraction as smart as we were. Matter of fact, do you remember the grades? You might have made fun of them back then or whatever. Like they didn't seem to care. And then you look at their life and how have they maximized their life in such an extraordinary way when you know that they have a fraction of the talent that you do? We see it all the time. What is that? It's the infinite possibility of people, in my opinion, because we don't know how far you could go. People are only willing, their comfort zone rules them, and so they only go so far and are only willing to be pushed so far and to experience so much resistance before they have a greater intention to not feel resistance than they do to actually live into their potential. But let's keep going. Was there a time in your life when you were attempting to apprehend your future more than you are now? Can you go back to a younger version of yourself who knew what they wanted and they were willing to do whatever it took to go out and do it? Now, I know some people like to have the excuse, and I will call it an excuse, to say, well, I got older and I got more mature and I'm less idealistic and I'm more realistic than I used to be. You know what? I got a better term for that. It's called settling. It's when you know that you're called for more and that you have more potential than what you're actually. And so instead of stewarding your potential and instead of stewarding this future, you are compromising your future and you're saying, I'm not going to take ownership of my future. I'm going to determine that I'm not going to determine anything. I'm going to decide that I'm not going to be intentional about anything. And some people make the excuse, well, there was a time when I was performance oriented and that was bad, and I had work-life balance issues. I had stress issues. I understand that from a negative, but I had major performance issues in my life. I had major competition issues when I was trying to prove something. But there comes a point when you realize you don't have anything left to prove, but you do have something to steward. And that's a different mindset altogether. If I'm out there trying to prove something, I realize I'll sit there and compare myself to others and everything else, and it's really, really bad. When you realize you don't have anything left to prove, but you're wondering, what are you here on the planet to do? And of all the people, of all the time that you could have been born and the giftedness that you have and everything else, I wonder what is behind everything. For every one of you, I wonder what's there. I wonder what you're called to. I wonder what happens when you settle and you're not trying to apprehend your future anymore, what the future could have held if you would have stewarded your life in a more intentional kinds of way, what kind of maximized life that you have and how many more people you were meant to impact. I think about those things. If there was anything that was going to keep me up at night, I'm going to think about those kinds of things because stewardship's a major value for me in my life. And I think that it should be for most people. Was there a time? Do you have any? Let's see. I already have that one up there. The last one is, well, actually, I duplicated that question. So you know what? You get to skip those questions. The bigger thing is where are you going? Because if you answered yes to any of those things, you know what it means? It means that, well, we haven't been intentional with life. It means that we are reactive in most cases. It means that we're not determining much. So on your current trajectory, you've left it to someone else to decide for you. You've left it up to the economy. You've left it up to politicians to decide for you. And people talk like that. People talk like powerless all the time. You're not a powerless person. I'm talking right now to people who have the power of choice and that you realize that maybe up to now you haven't been grabbing a hold of that choice and you haven't been intentional about your life because no one's truly deciding for you. If you're smart enough to say that politicians are making choices that affect our economy, if you're smart enough to say, or you can even recognize that businesses or the medical field or certain industry, that they're making choices that are determining actions for people, if you are smart enough to say that, if you are awake enough that you've smelled the coffee and you're like, well, I see this, and you see, then you know what? You're smart enough and you're switched on enough to start determining a path for yourself and not be, there's nothing worse. It's worse than being a sheep is one who says that they are not a sheep, but they're still going in the same direction of everyone else. I'll say that again. The only thing that's worse than being a sheep that doesn't know anything that's going on and just goes in a direction is a person who says, I know what's going on, and they're pointing fingers at all the sheep, but at the end of the day, you're going in exactly the same direction and you're not determining a different path. There's always other kinds of options. And so if you say yes to any of those kinds of things, then you're not being intentional with your life. But I want you to think about what that life looks like because maybe you haven't thought about your life 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road. You haven't thought about the generations below you. You haven't thought about a lot of those kinds of things. Well, you need to think about it. Let me give you some questions for you to think about. How is your current situation limited your personal growth and potential? What's going on in your personal situation that's keeping you from growing personally and tapping into your potential? What dreams or goals have you abandoned because you haven't been willing to make changes? You know what? You want something different. You want an intentional life. That means that there was probably a time when you were more intentional when you were younger and you abandoned certain things And what you abandon, those goals that you've abandoned, in many cases, it's because, well, I wasn't willing to change. I wasn't willing to do the hard. I wasn't willing to exercise more. I wasn't willing to go back to school. I wasn't willing to put my phone down. Let's think about this. People, and we'll talk about intentionality and how you do that next week in specific ways. But let me say this. For every person who's sitting here right now that says, I don't have time to start a new business or to get trained, probably for every one of you, I could look at small things that you could do every day. Like, I'm not telling you to overhaul every routine in your life right now. What I am talking about is because there is such little intentionality in the lives of most people that they have incremental small changes that they could make that would make an extraordinary difference in their life. Like, it doesn't even take that long to be great or good at anything for the most part, or to learn pretty much a new skill. I'm watching my daughter right now learning French off of an app. And right now she's logged about 61 days straight, and she's speaking French, and she's understanding French better than she's speaking it, but that's not where she was on the map 60 days ago. How much time is she investing? Maybe 10 minutes. We're not talking about earth-shattering kinds of things, but it's something that she said, I'm going to learn this and I'm going to implement this thing in my life. See, for some of you who have I'm so sad that I don't have a more intimate relationship with my spouse. I'm so sad that I don't have great conversation with my kids or whatever. Now, here's the thing, is you may not have 3 hours in a day to be able to give to that. You may not have 3 hours in a week, but could you start with 15 minutes? Could you start with some small something another? And this is the way that we treat stuff, so that we abandon our whole goal and some of the bigger things that we really desire in life because we're not even willing to make the smallest change. 15 minutes out of your media intake every day would make a drastic difference in your life. Shutting off Netflix, shutting off, hey, I'm not telling you to put down social media, but maybe you put it down for 15 minutes a day. Maybe you put your phone out of reach. Maybe you don't have it in front of you. Shock the world that you could do something without having that thing that's always a constant distraction when you're in front of someone. And I guarantee you, the intimacy and the closeness is going to increase just from a small change that you're willing to make in your life. Let's keep going, though. Can you describe the frustrations or disappointments that you've experienced by staying in your comfort zone? I want you to think about these things. You know why I'm saying these hard things? Because there's not going to be really any change in your life until you get sick and tired of being sick and tired. Like, you actually need to have a check-in with yourself and think about where you're at and where you're headed pretty regularly. That if the choice that I'm making in my social media time, is that getting me to my destiny? Is that making me? Or is it a distraction and it keeps me stagnant? Like, it's the small things in life that you're like, hey, when I show up in life and I start thinking about, man, I'm really frustrated and I'm disappointed, rather than just checking out, I want to check in and start asking the question. This is my daily experience. It's not real happy. It's not real joyful. And I've got guilt and regret, and I've got frustrations, and I've got disappointment. Sit in it for a moment. And when you sit in it, then you start thinking about, this is what I'm going to perpetuate for the rest of my life until I get intentional about the picture of the life that I do want to see. We keep going. How has your lack of change affected your relationships with loved ones? And that can be the lack of change in your career. It could be the lack of change in the way that you want to show up in life. What toll has it taken on your physical and mental health over time? Listen, if it is taking a toll on your physical and mental health right now, 5 years down the road, it's going to be exponentially worse. 10 years down the road, I know people my age. I turn 50 next year. I know people my age that are already on various medications and stuff. And they needed to make a decision. And instead of making a lifestyle decision, it was easier for them just to pop a pill than to actually be willing to make some of the lifestyle changes so that their heart isn't doing what it's doing or whatever it is. I watch it all the time. I'm watching people get parts of their body cut out of them because 5 years ago they weren't willing to make those changes. I know what I'm talking about in this because I see it way too much. You know that there are people who have changed and got medication free in a lot of different areas of their life, but they were willing to do some uncomfortable kinds of things because they were able to project and think 5 years down the road, I want to be functional. I'm on a 100-year plan. Everybody knows that who knows me. You guys might as well know if you haven't been around me for any length of time. I expect to fully live to 100 years old, and I am not going to be sick at 100 years old. I will be, when I pass, I'm going to pass happy in my sleep, and that's going to be it. And I'll be done at that point. But I will see my grandkids, and I will be fully healthy, and I will be doing astounding things with my kids, my grandkids, that other grandparents won't. And my likelihood is I'm going to start to see those grandkids grow up and do things and start having kids and all of that other stuff of their own. That's what my picture of the future looks like because I'm determining it now. I have intentionality in my life so that not only will I be alive, but nobody's going to be feeling bad for me because dad's still going to be living a better life than he was living previously. So as we keep going on, have you missed out on opportunities or experiences that could have enriched your life? What regrets might you have if you continue down the same path without change? I want you to check in for a moment and actually ask that question, what future regrets am I actually positioned to experience? Because if you have regrets now, my assumption is that the future regrets are going to be that much more intentional. And listen, if you've got regrets right now, it's better to address them now. Some people have such bad regret already that they're like, well, there's nothing that I could do to redeem that time over the last 10 years. Who gives a crap? At least don't give the next 10 or 20 years of your life away because you just blew the last 10. Let it create an intention for now that, man, if you could make your life 10% better, if you could make your relationships 15% better in the future than they are right now, my guess is that you're going to have a lot less regret. We keep going. How does it feel knowing that your true potential remains untapped? What impact does your current situation have on your self-esteem and your self-worth? Can you visualize the long-term consequences of not taking action to improve your life, and how does that make you feel? Now, here's what I'm talking about with regard to visualization. There is a Roger Bannister was the first person to run the 4-minute mile, which everybody was saying was a human impossibility. And then he did it. And when he did it, one of the things that they said was they asked about his training because, yes, he trained and everything else. And remember, he didn't even have the best footwear the day that he did it or anything else. It was like it was a big wreck that day and everything else on that. But what he said is that I saw myself running the 4-minute mile so many times that basically what he did is that he created certainty in himself because he had already broke the 4-minute barrier so many times in his mind. And what ends up happening as a result of him getting that breakthrough that a lot of other people, it's kind of the norm now, right? People can do the 4-minute mile. And so many people over the next couple of years started to do it with regularity and everything else. What am I saying in all of this? Is that most people are envisioning the worst case scenarios. Most people are living presently in their regret and their guilt and their frustration and their disappointment and feeling off and everything else. What we're really talking about, instead of all of the focus, because where does worry come from? You're really good at meditating on anything that could possibly go wrong or how bad everything is right now. But I can use that same tool to begin to think about the future that I want. And that's more important than knowing how to get there, because now once I start seeing who I want to become and what I want my life to look like, then what will end up happening is that I will kick in processes inside of me that start acting like the person that I need to become, that I start feeling like the person that I need to become, and that I start making decisions like the person that I want to become and inside the world that I want to see. See, the people who are determining the future are thinking that kind of a way. And the edge that they have over everybody else is that everybody else is reacting and they know it. So they're determining what you're going to buy in the future and how that you're going to use technology and what freedoms you're going to give up and all kinds of different things that people are determining those things. There are people who are on that edge that are thinking at a higher level about that stuff. And that means that for us, we have to start in an intentional way thinking about the pictures of life in the way that we want it. There's an old tool called the Wheel of Life. I'm not going to drag it up here or anything else, but it still works and it's still effective to help you visualize the kind of life that you want. And if I was going to draw you a picture of it, and we have it free on our website, but it's free in a lot of places, but it's a really simple metaphor for life. And the way that the metaphor actually works is it's like this. Let me see if I can get a circle up here really quick. One of these days we'll get it. There it is. The way the Wheel of Life actually works is this. Let me see if I can grab it without having too distorted of a wheel. So the way that it works is really like this. The wheel, why they call it the Wheel of Life, is that really all we're doing is that we're cutting this up like it's a pizza. But what we get are these main areas. And what I would say is go back 2 weeks and say, what is most important in your life? And all you're going to do is that you're going to label each one of these spots. So it might be marriage, your relationship with your spouse. It might be your kids. It might be your career. It might be purpose. It might be God. It might be friends. I don't know what it's going to be, but I'm not going to tell you what to label it with. Because a lot of times people try to label it. No, you label it. What are the things that are most important? Because this is the life that you're thinking about right now that you're not really happy about. That you have regret, that you said yes to some of these things earlier. Then all I've got to say is that my relationship with my kids looks like something presently right now that I'm not real happy about. And so if I had my now relationship with my kids versus the ideal relationship that I want with my kids, well, it's really, really simple. Is that my ideal stuff looks like something. It looks like something. You know what we're doing? Is that I want you to visualize the ideal life that you would want to have with your kids. I want you to intentionally spend time to picture what would it look like? What would it feel like? What are you doing? What choices are you making? What ways are you thinking? What ways are you relating to your kid that's different than it is right now? Because you can go there. You know how you need to change. You know how you need to show up in life. You know what career, you know what, when you know that, you know what career you're working because of the time that you're wanting to spend with your kid. You know what money you need to be making to be able to be generous and say yes to different things. And so now that I know what the ideal looks like, then it's really easy to see what that gap is. And the gap starts telling me, here's what I need to make in terms of a choice for my career in the future if I want to have that life. I need to go back and do some more learning. I need to go get trained and certified as a coach. You know how easy some of these things are? Well, how do I get trained and certified as a coach? Because I don't have thousands of dollars. Life Coach Training Institute, which is the largest life coach training program in North America, is only $195. Well, that's great, Paul, but I don't have $195. How long would it take you to get trained and certified if you saved $5 a day? $5 a day, and you're not spending it on Starbucks because you're already spending $5 a day. You know what it would tell me? It tells me that you could pay cash for it in about 5 weeks. That's what it tells me. But what are you willing to do? Is to think about what kind of a future that you want and determine your path towards actually getting it. But it means that you're going to have to show up differently in life. It means you're going to have to think differently. You're going to have different habits. You're going to have different routines in your life. But when you know what the picture is, now I can say, well, what needs to change in me to be able to live into that ideal picture? And this is what intentionality actually looks like. And it's much better than just reacting. Oh, well, we just don't know what's going to happen in the government with regard to taxes in the next 5 years. Well, why don't you know? Why haven't you charted a path in your life that puts you in a position where, regardless of what they do with taxes and everything else, you're still in a really, really good position? There's a lot of different things that you can do. You realize that? And most of the answers are out there online and everything else. Anything that you want to think about in your life. My health, this is the way it's going to look in 10 years on the trajectory that I'm at. What health do you want in 5 years, in 1 year, or whatever? Then what are the decisions that you have to start making? It means that I'm going to have a plan for eating, and I'm not going to just be eating empty calories because that's all it's in the pantry. It means I'm going to develop a taste for greens and everything else, and I'm not going to settle for some of these other kinds of things. It means that no more fast food. It means that no more soft drinks and everything else. This is what it really requires. What means more to you, because you have the power to change what means more to you, the future or the present thing that's going to go to your brain and give you a satisfaction in the moment that you're going to be regretting for the next 12 hours after you ate it. See, these are the things that I'm talking about. But you need to know what that picture looks like. And you need to be very aware of what you are settling for, because your choices today are the ones that are going to determine where you're going to be in 5 or 10 years. Let me pay the bills really quick, and I'm going to come back and say hello to a few more of you. For those of you who have not gotten trained and certified as a coach, the best deal that I can offer you is our Jumpstart program. It's only $97 a month. That is Starbucks every day. $97 a month with a 3-month minimum commitment. Well, what do you get for that, Paul? Well, here's what you get. You get the next boot camp, which is September 29th to August 1st. It's October 1st, not August. That'd be a full year. You can get trained and certified in 2.5 days. What we do is we do an accelerated program. We start on Friday. We do 7 total sessions. We do Q&As at the end of each one of those sessions. You get to connect with other coaches. You get to see coaching, role-playing demos, all of those things. You can get it knocked out in a single weekend. We make it as easy. Matter of fact, you can plan for it now because there's an early bird on this. If you only wanted to get trained and certified and you don't want to get business development help, but you want to knock out your certification in 2.5 days, then enroll. It's $195 right now. It's going to go up to $247 in the next week or so. But if you enroll in Jumpstart, you get it included in the $97 a month. But see, for those of you who don't know what your path forward is, you don't know what your steps are with branding or developing a website or any of those other things, Jumpstart also includes a branding course where we take you 13 hours step by step. We take you by the hand. How do you optimize your website for conversions? How do you write a sales page? How do you write an email? How do you put call to actions that are irresistible? How do you do an opt-in for your email list? All of these different things. All of this is actually included in Brand Camp. We also have the coaching product launch blueprint. For any of you who have thought about online courses or webinars or group coaching or any of those kinds of things, what we do in this course is that we walk you through step by step, and we give you tools to go from you have no idea what you're going to do all the way to launch. So we give you the pre-launch sequence, all of those other kinds of things. You don't have to wonder what your next step is. We walk you through the tool to think through and brainstorm what it is that you want to offer all the way up to launching your course or your program. Jumpstart also includes a Wednesday group coaching call. We give feedback on anything that you're working on, and you don't have to do this thing alone. All of this also includes Tuesday night coach training. And so it's a ridiculous deal for only $97 a month with a 3-month minimum commitment. The average coaching program to get trained and certified starts at $4,000, and it goes all the way up to $15,000. I understand that that's been cost prohibitive for some of you, but we've taken that excuse away. But you got to be intentional, and you got to think about the picture of the life that you want. And also, if you believe that you're called and you have a purpose over your life to coach people and you want to see transformed lives, then you need to do something about it. You're not getting any younger, and we're already in 2024. You do realize that, right? We're already in September. We're less than 4 months. January is going to be your number 2 coaching month. It's a close number 2 coaching month of the year. If you're wanting to get trained and certified and get this thing going, then you need to get it done now. And then you got 90 days to get your business up and going, to hit the ground running when everybody's ready to change their life in January. Cool? All right. Well, let me say hello to a few people who are in here. Is there any way to get these slides? Well, you can watch the replay, but we don't have any means of actually sending slides to anybody or anything. But you can do that. Hey, Greg in Alabama, how's it going, Greg? There's Shekinah, and there's Justine. How's it going, Justine? Kimberly's joining us from Chicago. Awesome. And Cheryl's joining us from Alaska. Just did boot camp and it was amazing. Excited to get started. So good. And I don't know who Facebook user is. Probably something in our someone in our Power Lunch group over there. So cool. Well, awesome. Well, listen, I appreciate you guys all immensely. I know we changed up the day and all that other stuff. And people who couldn't make it, you know what they'll end up doing? They'll end up like watching the replay later. So all you replay people, thank you so much for watching. Hey, listen, the enrollment link is inside the description right now. So you can jump in there. You can get enrolled in about 90 seconds. Join us tomorrow night for Tuesday night train. Oh, no, actually tonight. It's Tuesday. Duh. Tuesday tonight is Tuesday night coach training. It starts at 5 p.m. Pacific. That's 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern. So you can start as early as tonight with live training, but our courses are also self-paced, so you can set your own schedule. Wednesday's group coaching call. I mean, we can do this thing, but I need you to commit. I need you to take action and think about the life that you want and allow that to determine what steps you take. Link is inside the description. We would love to do it with you guys. Listen, I appreciate you guys so much. Have a great rest of your week and take care. Welcome to Mentor Monday. Mentor Mondays, your weekly microdose of encouragement, inspiration, and miracle grow on your potential as a coach. Do us a huge favor and jump into the comments right now, whether you are on Facebook, throw into the, I got my voice cracking and everything. I guess I'm just too excited. Jump inside the comments on Facebook. If you are on YouTube, jump into the chat. Tell us hello. Tell us where you are joining us from, what you're excited about, what you feel life and momentum on in your life. It's going to be an amazing night, and it's really going to be an amazing week because this weekend is boot camp weekend. That's going to be August 25th through the 27th. For those of you who have not gotten trained and certified as a coach, this weekend is the weekend to do it. Why? Because we start Friday, we end Sunday, and you knock out all of your training in a single weekend. So 2.5 days of training. It's accelerated training. We cram everything in that we normally teach in our life coach certification course in a single weekend. And so we take all of your excuses away, whether it's your time schedule or financials or whatever. We've got you covered. You can get enrolled for as little as $47 for this weekend. But we'll say more about that in a little bit. Let us know that you are here. Jump inside of the chat and say hello to us. Paul from Boise, who's saying hello to everyone. Jennifer is joining us from Phoenix, Arizona. Welcome, Jennifer. Again, if you guys are just making it into the room, do me a huge favor and jump in to the chat and let us know that you're here. Also, do me a huge favor, like this post and share it. If you're on Facebook or on YouTube, that's what they're looking for. They're looking for people who are doing good things for people in the community on these platforms, and you taking a second just to like it or love it or whatever tells them that we're doing a good job, and that way we can get it in front of more people. That's what our hope always is. And so let me say hello to a few more people. Rose, who's saying hello to us over there. How's it going, Rose? Anybody else? Make sure you jump in. You haven't missed anything yet from Pennsylvania. Awesome, Rose. Anybody else like to say hello to us? Please let us know that you are here, and because we would like to. I'm over here in a studio over in California. We have so far avoided any hurricane stuff. It's funny because we are Hurricane Katrina survivors from New Orleans originally. So, we say survivors. We did decent compared to, like, a lot of my family lost everything during Hurricane Katrina and stuff like that. We lost a lot of stuff, like there's a lot of childhood stuff that I don't have anymore and everything else. But I had one of my friends from Mississippi text me last night and saying, we're praying for you guys in California with this hurricane. I was like, dude, California's hurricanes are more like thunderstorms in Mississippi. It's kind of like not much of anything. So we've been really good, So anyway, for anybody who's thinking about us out here, we're just having to deal with the humidity that we don't normally have. So anyway, there's April from Vegas. How's it going, April? Good to see you. All right. Well, let's jump in and begin. Last week, we started this series called Living an Aligned Life. And it's not just a trending topic. It's actually an ongoing issue in most people's lives that their life's really not very aligned. And last week, what we talked about were the warning signs, really the 5 signs that your life is not in alignment. And what I promise is that over the next few weeks, we wouldn't be just talking about the problems and the pain points of it, because one of the things that you learned last week, if you were with us, and you can go back in time and watch it, if your life is not aligned, it's what you're feeling and what you're experiencing is a 4-letter word called pain. So what I really want to do over the next few weeks is to give you some tools and help you get really clear about some things. So not only is your life aligned, but it's actually more fulfilling than the life that you're living right now. And also, with anything that we're doing in this, it can also help you as you're working with clients. Because as they talk about some of these symptoms or pain points, as we like to say them on a business side, symptoms, pain points of what they're feeling like in their life and everything else, that you can really go to the source of, here's where this discomfort is coming from. Here's where this frustration is coming from and everything else. And you'll actually have the tool to be able to help them. You'll be able to give them language behind it in terms of what they're feeling and experiencing, and then help them get out of it. Where we're starting, though, is really starting with what matters most. And last week, I talked about a couple of these symptoms. And so if you feel this way, or if your clients come to you feeling one of these ways, then we're going to show you the source of discomfort underneath as to why they're feeling the way that they're feeling. Oh, let me say hello to a couple more people. All right. No, I think I said hello to everybody. So let's jump in and we'll take a look at it. First off, what's making me feel, what is it that's actually making me feel guilty? Because that's pointing to a life that's not really in alignment. What's making me feel sadness? What's making me feel off? When people talk about feeling, I just feel really off, What's making me feel resentful? What's making me feel unfulfilled? And what's making me feel frustrated, disappointed, and empty? Well, I'm going to help you take the mystery out of this thing. Let me see if I can get a whiteboard up really quickly for us. So we're going to talk about these feelings, where they're coming from in an unaligned life. Very common one is feeling guilty. Another one is feeling off. Another one is feeling sadness. Another one is feeling resentment. Because I want to trace the actual source in this. And then just to grab a couple of more, unfulfilled, and I'm just going to shorten it and just say frustrated and empty. Where we're going to trace the source of all of these things is that there's something that matters more. There's something that's actually important that in many cases is operating on a subconscious level. Because no one is going out and starting their day saying, you know what I want to do today? I want to live my life out of alignment with what matters most. I don't want to do what matters most, and I don't want to be occupied with the things that really matter to me. I want to start my day by doing a lot of other things that don't matter. I want to live my life completely out of the norm of what I've been doing my entire life. And I'm going to choose today, not joy, not happiness or fulfillment. I'm going to choose something different. No one starts their day and no one actually starts their life in that kind of a way. See, the reality is that there is a why behind your why. There's something that actually matters. And on a subconscious level, at the very least, your subconscious knows what matters most. And it's kind of what I would say is that thing that's going on in you, that why is communicating some things to you. It's communicating some things, your subconscious is, of what is, well, let me see if I can undo that. Where's that little thing at? Where'd it go? There it goes. It's communicating to you what is right and also what is wrong. Every day, all throughout your day, you'll have this sense, your why, that thing that is most important to you, is communicating something that overall of what's right and what's wrong. It's also communicating to you what matters most. It's also communicating to you how you should be living your life. And it's also not only the right and wrong, not only what matters most, not only how you should be living your life, but it's also communicating to you about how things are done. And this stuff is different than purpose in your life, but it's not. But what I would say is that this stuff actually projects how you're going to live your life, what is morally right and wrong, what matters, and all of those other things. Basically, how you're going to live life and how you're going to get done and what you're giving your life to, those are the things that matter most. So that what happens is, I'm going to start with fulfillment in general. If you ever see someone, and this is what's going to happen if it's not happened to you, it's going to happen to some of your clients. Have you ever seen someone who feels unfulfilled even though they have success in their life? Have you ever accomplished a goal in your life and at the end of it, you experienced emptiness and unfulfillment? You know what that is? It's because you accomplished something that wasn't actually in alignment, or it wasn't done. It's going to be one of these things. You were either doing something in what you accomplished that was not aligned with what matters most, or you went about it in a way that you shouldn't have done it, or it wasn't really something that you feel like at the end of the day that this is what you live your life for. How many people make it, crush it, are making crazy money and doing crazy stuff, but they still at the end of the day don't have any purpose, and they are wondering why they feel unfulfilled? This is why. It's a why issue. And I guarantee you, when people set out in their life to go make their millions or billions or go buy that yacht or whatever it is, or the bigger house or the whatever, they probably thought this is probably going to make me feel better, or it's going to make me feel accomplished. But what ends up happening, it's like they climbed a ladder, and when they got to the top, they realized they put the ladder in the wrong place. That's because they put their goal ahead of what their why is. And this is why you end up feeling unfulfilled. Many of you have had extraordinary success in your life in various things, and you're still feeling unfulfilled. Well, this is why. This is that starting place. You know, when someone feels empty, we can always point to the fact that how could you feel empty if you knew that you were doing what was most important and you were doing what you were called to do? Because I would say that what fits under here is calling and purpose. That you wake up in the morning and you know what you're made to do. You're doing what you're made to do. So if you wake up in the morning and you don't feel excited about life and you're frustrated, or you feel like this is purposeless and it's empty, it's because your why is not actually determining what you do. Something else is determining what you do. You know, I understand that some of you are working jobs that you just got it to make a paycheck. And sometimes you were in difficult circumstances. There were not opportunities that were in front of you, and you did whatever you needed to do. Like, you know, and this is what happens so often, because I can think of this attorney that I knew years ago. And he really, like, in his heart, he wanted to become an attorney because he was all into, like, hey, how can we, like, bring justice? How can we protect people? He was really like a justice kind of nut. You know, he loved those stories and everything else. So he'd gone to law school and all of these other things. And so that was the thing that really was driving him to do this. But along the way, what ends up happening is that he gets married, he has kids, he has expenses. His wife decided she wanted to be home with the kids and all this other stuff. And so what he ends up doing is that he makes a critical decision in his life. The critical decision that he makes is that he takes a really big paycheck with this working in law in a particular area. And as the years are progressing, he keeps taking that paycheck and he's taking care of his family and he's paying the bills, but he's frustrated and he's empty. And I can tell you why he was frustrated and empty. Because he was working for an insurance company, except he's on the other side of things. Like, he's literally looking for any reason not to pay out to the individuals. This is why he was hired, so that these people are paying premiums and that they would never actually have their accidents taken care of. So can you imagine the conflict when he's starting a career that's all based on what is most important to me? It's justice, but you're on the opposite side and you're not bringing justice. See, that's an extreme example, but how many times do people, in trying to do the right thing, in trying to just take care of what is immediate, what ends up happening is sometimes you get like a degree or two off of what due north is for you. Due north is that inner compass. Your why is your inner compass that dictates how life is supposed to be lived and how you're supposed to do things. But if you violate your why, if you violate your inner compass, you're always going to be frustrated and you're always going to be empty. you're also going to find yourself in resentment. Why would you find yourself in resentment? Often you're resentful to yourself because you've sold out in some kind of a way. Sometimes we're resentful to our families because we tried to make a decision for them that also knocked us off, and now I'm making choices about life that I didn't originally intend. Sometimes we are choosing whys that are not our whys. Some of you are choosing whys for your family. Some of you are choosing whys for your friends. Some of you are choosing whys because of, the church that you go to and stuff like that. That it's not necessarily your why, but it's the why that everybody else thinks, well, this is the why that is going to be affirmed in this community. This is the why that's going to be affirmed in this family. I couldn't tell you how many people I know that have chosen careers because their family or their parents were paying the bill for it, paying the money for them to go to school, and I'm not going to pay unless you go to this school, and I'm not going to pay unless you do this particular career. And as the years are progressing, now they find themselves in deep resentment. Because listen, just because somebody else thinks that there is a particular why in your life, it's never going to if it doesn't align with you, you can't make somebody else's why your why. You can't actually recalibrate yourself to someone else's why because it sounds like a better idea, or it should be this thing. I'm sorry to tell you, if you're trying to change that thing, your why is not really going to change. It's pretty hardwired in you. And you're not going to be able to fight against it. All you can do is align with it. Sadness, feeling off. Sometimes when people say, I feel off, I feel like unbalanced, I feel shut down, this is because you're not doing what is most important in your life and you're not aligned with it. But I really want to highlight this one right here. This thing right here called guilt. Because some of you, and probably more commonly, this is the emotion that many of you feel that are even listening right now and are watching right now. What is guilt about? Well, guilt's kind of complicated because it's really connected to all these things. Guilt, in its most basic sense in life, redeem guilt, I would say good guilt, healthy guilt. You know what it does? It's when you do the wrong thing, and when you do that wrong thing, it makes you feel remorse so that you don't do it anymore. It makes you feel remorse, and you would apologize to someone or whoever you need to, and you'll turn over a new leaf and you're like, I'm not going to go out and do that behavior anymore. I'm not going to go out and do that thing anymore. And so what it's designed to do is hopefully shut down negative behaviors and get them out of the way, because you never want to feel like that again. I don't want to disappoint people. I don't want to hurt their feelings. I don't want to what? Go against my values. What is what? When you look at this, I don't want to go against what I sense is right and wrong in life. Now, here's the way that guilt is operating in many of your lives. Have you ever tried to start a business, tried to start something, or just been at work? Let's say that you're at work, and when you're at work, you feel guilty because you know that your kids haven't gotten much out of you recently. But when you are with your kids, you're thinking about work because you feel guilty because you don't feel like you're giving your best to your work, and you're not giving your best to anyone. So at the end of the day, you feel guilty about work, you feel guilty with your spouse, you feel guilty with your kids, you feel guilty with your friends, you feel guilty everywhere. What is that? Where's that coming from? It's coming from your why and the fact that you are not calibrated to what it's supposed to be. Guilt is one of the most common feelings when you're not doing what matters most. You know why? Because it is a moral issue for you. It's that deep. So when I say it's a right or wrong kind of issue, it may not be that you're doing anything bad, but to you, not to live in alignment with what you believe matters most is in your own heart wrecking your conscience. I want your consciences to be free. I want your consciences to be clear. I want you every day when you wake up in the morning and you look in the mirror to be guilt-free. I want when you go to bed at night, after you shower and your head hits the pillow at night, that you're not thinking about what you are not doing and what you should have been doing, and that you're not giving your best in any area of your life. I want you at the end of the day, at the end of the week, at the end of the month, at the end of your life to say, I gave everything that I was supposed to give, and I was totally, you know what that requires? It means totally being in alignment. It means you were doing the things that matter most. It means that you were living how you were supposed to be living. It means that how you did things was with excellence, and it was with greatness, and it was with to the best of your ability, and you weren't selling people short. Your family wasn't biting the bullet. It means that also that you have, because here's a big one for many of you, because I know a lot of you are overachievers and you're big time learners. That's why you're here. It's true about so many coaches. There's nothing worse than feeling like you didn't fulfill your potential. We are in the human potential business. That's what coaching is. So if you're not living into your potential, you know what ends up happening is that now you start feeling like a fraud. You start feeling like an imposter. What am I going to offer anybody? Because I'm not really living into my potential. I'm not maximizing my abilities right now. So why should I be talking to anybody else about their goals and living into what they're made for? You know how we solve all of this? We solve it by getting aligned. We solve it by, if you're living a life right now that is not in alignment with what you believe your calling and your purpose is, that's on you. And only you can choose to make something else. And only you can choose to actually align your life so that you're doing this very thing. Nobody else is going to pick up the slack. It was born with you and it dies with you. That's the one thing. And you know what? There's nothing, no sacrifice worse to me than someone's own potential. You know, that's one of the hardest things that I see all the time. You know, I was working with a guy here over the past week. And one of the challenges that I could see for him was the fact that he's kind of signed on, and this is what happens for some people. Some people sign on for a lifetime healing process. And so what they end up doing at a certain point, they do it at the cost of their calling and purpose. They do it at the cost of following through, because it makes a really, really good excuse for why you don't go after things. You realize that some people are waiting for the bank account to say something before they'll live into their purpose? Do you realize that some people are waiting on some miracle to happen? I'll say this to what I said to a group last night. Some of you are praying for mountains to be moved before you do anything. I'm waiting on something big to happen and save the day. Let me say this, is that sometimes you need a miracle for a mountain to be moved. And sometimes, though, you're actually supposed to take and occupy a mountain. You know the reason why we would take and occupy a mountain? Because the place of your biggest challenge is also the place where you can go into a higher perspective. And actually, when you take territory, everybody who's ever in a battle wants the higher place, because you can see everything. You have a different vantage point. You have authority. You have power in that place. But there's a way that you have to occupy it. It means that you're going to have to overcome whatever opponent is there. In most cases, that opponent is yourself. You have that choice all the time. I want to encourage all of you, don't sign up for this lifetime healing for trauma thing that people are making billions off of these days. Because they want people to think like they're victims, and they want people to think that they are weak, because as long as they can keep them thinking like that, the money keeps going. There has to be a choice at a certain point that this might have been true about what happened to me in my life, but I get to make a decision about my life, about my identity, about my future. And that's what empowered people do. And it's one of those really big things right now that it's like, I am not going to. Now, listen, I don't want to try to do something if I've got like major brokenness and I've got major issues that's going on. I'm not talking about that stuff. I'm talking about the people who follow every Instagram account And they're all talk, and it's all of this talk about things. And it's like, let's move forward. What does it look like to actually move forward? What does it look like to be, in spite of what I've been through, who I'm living into now? What is the reality is that whatever that opponent is in life, if I defeat them, now it becomes my place of authority and power in this world. And it also becomes my talking point, my life message. It's the thing that endorses me because I'm victorious over it. Now I can bring people into victory in places where I now have victory. I don't know why I went in that direction. Forgive me, but I felt like I was supposed to. So, how do we get there? How do we get to why in our life? I'm going to give you some questions. This will be a really quick tool that you guys can use on yourself or use with your clients to help you get to why. Here's question 1. If you have 5 years left in your life and you could accomplish 3 things, what would they be? If you'll do that, if you'll actually think about, and why is this important? Well, when you know you only have 5 years left and not 50, you're going to show up in your life and you're going to approach yourself and your situations and everything a lot differently. It's scarcity in a different kind of way. When we know that our life is actually condensed, and here's a reality. I turn 50 years old next year. Now, I'm fully expecting to live to be 100 years old. I don't have any doubts. My health markers and everything and all of those stuff, that stuff tells me, yes, this is true. But I don't know. But I don't want to live like I have 50 years left. I want to live more like I have 5 years left or less. And what happens is that when your life is condensed and you only have a short time frame, you know what that does? You start boiling your life down to what's most important. And you'll think about these things that if you only have 5 years left of my life, I can probably come up really, really quickly to have 3 things that I know I need to accomplish. You know what that's going to tell you? It's going to give you the indicators of what your why really is and what's most important. You know what? If you only have 5 years of your life and there's three things that you need to get done, that probably simplifies your life right now. Of the 97 things that you need to put on the side or you need to outsource to somebody else. I know I'm speaking to someone right now. If you have 5 years left in your life, you simplify your life big time. You get rid of the extra stuff. You get rid of the baggage. You simplify that junk that's been sitting in your garage. It goes. Whatever stuff is in the way, you're like, I got 5 years to do this. I don't have, you know what? Your drama with certain people, your Facebook activity, your Instagram activity, all of this junk, you know what? It simplifies. You may actually get rid of that stuff. You may get rid of a lot of things. You may stay away from a lot of different discussions. You probably will stay away from a lot of topics. You'll probably quit binge watching stuff on Netflix. You'll probably get rid of friends that are bringing you down and all they want to do is drink every weekend. And they're not accomplishing anything in their life and they're not making progress. But you won't cut ties with that because you don't have a purpose and you don't have a why that's driving you. When you have a why, it's single focus and you know what you're supposed to do. See, if we can boil it down to 5 years, then I know that I'll get single focused and it makes my decisions really easy. You know, if you had 1 year left in your life and you could accomplish one thing, what would it be? You know what happens when you get to one thing in 1 year? Now I am single focused and I know what my most important thing is. If in 1 year there's one thing that is most important, you better put that on the priority list in your life. And if you will put that thing on the priority list, and then you'll put those other 2 things on the priority list, I guarantee you will not wake up depressed tomorrow. I guarantee you will not wake up feeling guilty tomorrow. If you take these 3 things, 1, 2, 3, and you will align your life in that way, you will not feel guilty in the morning once you've given your life to it, but you for sure will feel guilty of the 97 other things that are taking up your time right now. You will wake up in the morning and you will feel accomplished. You will feel in your purpose. You will feel in your flow. You will not feel off. And these things will help you make easy decisions because if it's not one of your 3 things, then it's got to go. It could be the 4th thing and it could be the 5th thing, but it is not going to make it into your top 3. You see, on your deathbed, what one thing, if you left it undone, would you feel the biggest loss? What is that one thing? It's just another way to be able to ask that question. Here's a few more questions that you can ask. What 3 people matter most, and what have you not done for them yet? Because I would say that probably for most people, it's usually about people. It might be your spouse, it might be your kids, it might be your friends, it might be a whole people group. You might actually be looking at a people group. What have you not done for them? Because I think that all purpose is connected to people. And if purpose is just about us, well, it's not a very big purpose. If it's just about me, you're probably doomed to feeling unfulfilled. It's too small of a dream. I wouldn't say that that's a purpose at all. It's a very selfish, self-focused life. And I would struggle to find anybody who would say my purpose is all about me. What 3 people matter most? And you can include a people group. And what if you leave this thing undone? What do you want people to say about you or remember about you when you die? This is the legacy kind of question. And we've heard questions like this, but have you ever written that out? This tells you what your why is. What is most important for people to know about you? What is most important in terms of your character traits? What is most important about the essence of who you are? What is most important in the legacy in terms of what you have done, what you have given your life to, what you have put all of your talents, all of your potential, all of your finances, what you've banked everything on in your life? What is that thing that you would want other people to remember? You know what's going to end up happening? It's going to tell you again what your why is. What are the 3 biggest decisions that you've made in your life so far? And what are the things that have actually informed those decisions? If you can grab a hold of what has informed your biggest decision in your life, that is telling you again what you find most important in your life. It's going to tell you what your why is. Now, I'll say this one more time. If you will boil your life down, because it's about getting simpler. It's not about you accomplishing 30 things in your life. It's really about accomplishing one thing. And there's probably some kind of accessory things that probably fit under that umbrella in some kind of way. Let's boil our life down, make it simple, and then making a plan to do it. Next week, we're going to be talking about the picture. Once you guys have figured out what that thing is, once we know what it is, now it makes it really easy to make decisions in my life. Now it makes it really easy to show up in life. And what am I going to be influenced by? What am I not going to be influenced by? It's going to make a really easy decision about what job you should be taking, what city you should be living in, what house you should be living in, what town you should be living in, what job you should be doing, what field what career change you should be making. It's going to make a really easy decision about who you choose in terms of a partner in your life. It's going to make a really easy decision about who you need to cut out of your life, the things that are toxic in your life, the things that are dragging you down in your life. And see, it's all of those accessory things that are actually making you feel so bad about your life. This is like the biggest gift that you could give yourself, is to find out what is most important and to put everything down the priority list, including the things that you know are diametrically opposed to you living into the why that you were made for. And then you're free. And then you're happy. And then you're fulfilled. And then it makes all of your goals and everything that you go towards in range. This weekend, as I was saying earlier, is Bootcamp weekend. It's August 25th through the 27th. We created Bootcamp for those of you who are busy and you're also looking for an affordable program to get trained and certified. Average program out there is about $3,500 to about $12,000. We pioneered an online education for a couple of reasons back 10 years ago. One reason is because we really believed that people could set their own schedule and that they could be trained online, because I'd been helping educators and universities get online and start teaching online because, well, they had a real issue with it. And the coaching industry had an issue with it as well when we started. They said, you can't do that. I said, I know we can, because I've been helping people do it for years. So we started our program fully online, on demand, and we've never raised our price in all of these years. And not only did we want to be online and on demand, we wanted to be affordable. We wanted to put coaching within your reach. The last thing that I would say about it is that we also have determined that we will not increase prices or whatever. We have determined that we're going to launch game changers, world changers all over the globe, and that's what we've done. We're the largest life coach training program in North America. And we're determined to make it not only, I want to take all of your excuses off the table when it comes to affordability or any of those other kinds of things. We want you to be proficient as a coach, and we want you to thrive as a business person. This program is only $247. What happens in it? Well, we start Friday and we end Sunday, and you knock all of your training out in an accelerated format. Can it all be done in a weekend? Absolutely. You know why? Because that is what I'm known for. What I've taught people to do, and what we've been doing, is that you can get a lot of change, even with clients. You can get a lot of change in a short amount of time, and people don't need to languish when you're ready, and you can offer something in an accelerated format and give people access to HD replays, and you can continue offering support tools throughout the year. Then you can absolutely do this thing. But it's 7 powerful weekend sessions. And those sessions are foundations of coaching. That's where we start on Friday night. All day Saturday, we go through the anatomy of a dynamic coaching session, how to help your clients get extraordinary results, how to listen on a transformational level, how to ask powerful questions, and also how to establish a growing coaching practice. Every one of these sessions include live Q&As, because we want to make sure that you don't get stuck and you understand everything that we're talking about. And we also have live coaching demos. So what you're able to do is you can experience being coached, and you can also coach other people in a safe environment and get feedback on it, so that you know what coaching looks like, and you've had an experience of it. Now, the other thing is that there's live Q&As at the end of each one of these sessions, so you do get access to me. All of our training is live. It's on Zoom. We record every one of the sessions, and we make them available by that Monday. Here's what's included. You get 7 live sessions with live Q&As and role playing. You get coaching tools, questions, samples, coaching agreement, and intake samples. You'll get life coach certification. You'll also get your certificate. You will get HD replays and handouts for the entire weekend. And you'll get free audits for life. Yes, we welcome you to come back anytime as the training continues to develop and change a little bit over the years. You're always welcome back. The price point is only $247. If any of you have trouble with $247 single payment, all you've got to do is set up an easy pay agreement. It's $47 out of pocket, and you can join us this weekend. And then you'll just pay $47 for the next 6 months. You don't have to have a credit check or great credit for it or whatever, as long as you've got a great credit card and good faith agreement with us. Then that's how we set it. We're trying to make this as easy as possible and to take your objections off the table. Now, anybody, I believe this, anybody can come up with $247 for this weekend. I have no doubts in my mind. And we don't need miracles to happen. Sometimes we just need to partner with people. Sometimes we need to be ingenious. Sometimes we just need to say no to other things. When I got trained and certified as a coach, I was broke and had a 400 credit score, and where I needed to travel to get to where I was going to go through a certification program and everything else. I had no credit, and I had no credit cards. We had lost everything after the last recession. And I found a way. I slept in an airport on the first night because it saved me money from needing a hotel stay. So I took a red-eye flight and slept in an airport for my first night. I took a shuttle to get as close as I possibly could. That was just public transportation. That was like $20 to go all the way from the airport to about an hour away or wherever we were. And then I literally had my luggage, and I walked 3 miles. And I know this sounds like one of those stories, but it's a true story. I walked 3 miles to the hotel where they were set up in a ballroom for the weekend. I ate one meal a day because it's all I could afford. And I had a Roach Motel that was about $60 a night that I would get someone out of the training to drop me off on at night. And those are the sacrifices I was willing to make because I couldn't do any better than that. I couldn't make my family bite the bullet, but I got really, really creative and I sacrificed and I made some decisions. And this is a fraction of that cost that I paid, some 15 years ago or whatever. This is a fraction of that cost, but the training's just as good and you get more access to your instructor than I got back in those days. And you also get a lot more because no one told me how to start a coaching practice or anything else. And you're going to get some of those tips and different things this weekend. Also, you're also going to be connected to other coaches who are right where you are. So it'll give you some accessibility to other people. It'll give you some accountability and everything else. The link is inside the description right now. If you go inside the link of this video, you can get enrolled. It'll take you about 90 seconds. You can join us on Friday night. We would love for you to join us and be a part of the school and see you get your coaching career started. So, awesome. I appreciate this course that I'm taking, self-paced program. Awesome. So good. And there's Samuel joining us from Oceanside. So good. Good to see you. There's Sandy in New Jersey. Good to see you, Sandy. All right, everyone. Well, listen, that link is right there. And there's Paul. Paul says, I love the energy and passion tonight, Paul. I'm so happy to be part of the LCTI community and a grad of both the CLC and CPC training. So good, man. All right. Well, listen, everybody, you can get enrolled. There's a QR code right there. Isn't that wonderful? There's a QR code. You can enroll right now. The link is inside the description. Make this choice. Do it. It's part of your alignment right now. Is this, you need to do it because you're not going to be satisfied. You're not going to be fulfilled until you do it. So click that link inside the video description and let's get this thing done. Listen, I appreciate you guys all immensely. Have a great rest of your week and take care.